Welcome, everyone. The Public Safety Commission is called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Quiche peoples. Our pledge tonight will be led by Commissioner Hallman. Please stand if you are able. You. Commission Secretary, can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Eng?
Here.
Commissioner Hallman?
Here.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Here.
Commissioner Post?
Here.
Commissioner Winnick?
Here.
Vice Chair Blau?
Here.
Chair Harrison?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda for April 27th, 2026?
There are no changes.
Seeing no changes, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I will move to approve the agenda.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, may I get a roll call?
Commissioner Eng?
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman?
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Aye.
Commissioner Post?
Aye.
Commissioner Winnick?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blau?
Aye.
Chair Harrison?
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Thank you. Next up is the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes for March 23rd, 2026?
No changes?
No changes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. Can I get a roll call, please, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Eng?
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman?
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Aye.
Commissioner Post?
Aye.
Commissioner Winnick?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blau?
Aye.
Chair Harrison?
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Thank you. There is, next up is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time or any Zoom callers?
Yes, so we have 2 callers on Zoom, if you would like
Do you
to
wanna
start
start
with
with
that.
Zoom?
And then we followed by a few in chambers.
Great. Let's start with Zoom.
So for our first caller, Yola Dore, if you want to unmute yourself, you will have 3 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, Yola, we can hear you.
Yes?
Yes, you can
Hello?
begin.
Do you want me to speak now?
Yes, please.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Good evening. This is Yola Dore, a 30-plus year resident of West Hollywood. Good evening, commissioners. Commissioners, duck and cover. Oh, it's not an earthquake. It's a random shooter, one we need to take care of because we need more technology. We've got the money for it, you know, but somehow it isn't coming across. Somehow we need to get our people to okay this technology so that these random shooters and these homophobes can be caught. I need you to do something about this tonight. If not, I need you to put it on an urgent agenda. Please think about it. We're all in this boat together. We can work together and make it better. Let's help and make our city safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Yola. Next, we have Katie, who is on Zoom. If you would like to unmute yourself, you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Catherine K.T. Thomas. I'm here on behalf of the Women's Advisory Board to give a few updates. First, I want to thank you to everyone from the Commission who came out to support the March Women's History Month events, including the Women's Health Symposium, International Women's Day, and the Women in Leadership Awards, We truly appreciate your presence and support. This weekend, there was a great turnout for the city-sponsored Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month outreach event in partnership with WehoLive. The activity was focused primarily on handing out spiking test strips and only yes means yes materials directly to the public on the street and outside various hospitality establishments. Thank you to everyone who participated. It was an important step in continuing the conversation around public safety, including how we can work together to help ensure a safer nightlife environment. On June 25th, there will be a women's safety presentation during our monthly meeting. We invite all to attend our monthly women's meeting. In October, we are also planning more women's safety presentations as part of our special televised October meeting scheduled for October 29th. We are very happy with our partnership with the Public Safety Commission and look forward to continuing to build on our collaboration. If anyone would like to attend or provide comments at our next meeting, please join us Thursday, May 28th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Catherine, Katie. Next, now we'll move to council chambers. First speaker we have is Louise Smith. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate your time. I wanted to introduce myself. I am your liaison from the Disabilities Advisory Board. I also want to thank your commissioner, who is the liaison to come to the Disabilities Advisory Board, Commissioner Post. Appreciate his presence and attention. We have several items that we've been discussing, and we would like to bring it up here and make sure it's on the record. One is a group of people that utilize the sidewalks in the city. We feel that there could be a lot more done for sidewalk safety. As someone that is using the sidewalks much more than I used to, because I used to transport myself, I'm now coming by my wheelchair. And some of the obstacles, and I noticed in the ambassador's report, the high incidence of unhoused individuals in this city, and particularly on the west side here. I've had several encounters myself in broad daylight trying to get back to my place from Pavilions, where 3 o'clock in the afternoon, one was sound asleep on the sidewalk all the way across. And I had to go in the street to avoid the individual. I've had to call the ambassadors to my home because the intercom system was blocked by a homeless individual that was lying in front of it. And there were people trying to get in. I called the ambassadors and they were there within 5 minutes and really did a good job on handling it and did get the care team in. The individual was respectful and indicated he wasn't feeling well. But we've also had numerous other individuals sleeping under windows and on the sidewalk. And it's so prevalent now that it's become a safety hazard, I think, for residents. And I don't feel comfortable going up to someone and asking them to move, quite frankly. You don't know how they're going to react. That's one of the issues. And then we have to share the sidewalk with vehicles. The other day I was coming down to go to the dentist's office and I couldn't get down Hilldale because the e-bike was totally across the sidewalk. So again, I had to go through the street and get down to the corner to get to a cutoff. These are the kind of things that I think our city needs to be looking at more carefully. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Next, we have Ed Holman. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ed Holman, longtime West Hollywood resident. 2 things. Later, we're going to get a report from the sheriff about stuff that happened in the previous month. March, thank you. But something happened in April that I'd like to them they can comment on earlier. On April 17th, around 10:30 at night, 8270 Norton, there was a break-in in an apartment building over there, helicopters, sirens, all that good stuff, keeping us up all night. With all the news about the break-ins in the valley, none of it's they're not reporting anything that's happening in our city. In our area, I haven't seen anything on the news about it, just on Citizen, that was it. All thing I want to talk about, there's a guy in our city, his name is John, he's a homeless guy. Recently, I've got videos I'd like to share. He's been running up and down our streets, swearing up and down, homophobic stuff, racist stuff. I'm sick of hearing N-word from this guy. And it was just words at one point, but then recently, he just broke somebody's car window. There's physical video of him doing this. And he's been known to be ripping off some of the stores. Actually caught him at Trader Joe's, and I got video of that of him trying to shoplift as well. It was just a nuisance with just the words and whatnot, and it's escalated to other things. Can this guy be, as a nuisance, picked up? And I mean, he's already broken somebody's car, now they've got damage. I know that's a civil thing, but he's more than just a nuisance to the city. Can he be picked up? I got his name from security ambassadors. His name is John, and I've got a picture I can share with you all as well. I want to send it to Anita. Drawing a blank. Yes, I'd like to share that information so you guys can see it. This guy is a nuisance to the city. I'm tired. The neighbors are tired of him just roaming up and down the street. I would love to share the audio so you guys could hear it, of him just up and down the street. And F words this and N words this. We're sick of it. Please get this guy off our streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next, we have Stephanie Harker. Stephanie, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. You know, the recent incident where Mr. Woolen and Mr. Miller were basically, so we say, verbally jumped, that was discussed at the last council meeting. It didn't help that a member of the council suggested that trolls from Temecula go to a gay bar in Pomona instead of coming here. I think that there must be better ways to keep WeHo safe. Maybe you as commissioners, because we consider you our liaisons to the council, even though the council considers you liaisons to the public. And maybe you could come up with some suggestions and let your council member who appointed you know what those suggestions are, and please listen to the people that come and speak to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next, we have Helen Krieger. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm your liaison from Transportation and Mobility Commission, and I just wanted to give you a brief update on our last meeting. We actually did not have any new business on the agenda, so we just got some updates. So I'll just give you a couple updates and commissioner comments that I think might be of interest to you. The first one, May is Bike Month, and on May 14th, it's Bike to Work Day, so the city is hosting a pop-up at City Hall from 8 to 11 a.m. There'll be coffee, snacks, and little giveaways like free LED lights and safety helmets while supplies last. And I can attest that the bike lights are really great. They're rechargeable. And I recently had one fall off my bike, and it got run over by the car behind me, and it's still working, so great. They're also going to have bike checkups there at the event, so you can bring your bike to get like a little tune-up, but they do encourage pre-registration for that. And you can do that at goweho@weho.org. In the coming months, probably in the summer of 2026, the Transportation Division is going to be doing a comprehensive transit service analysis for all of our local in-city transit services. So they're going to be looking holistically at all the services we offer, like the pickup. I know there's some commissioners who want the pickup to go to Sunset as well. And there's commissioners like myself who want it to always be on Thursdays, not just sometimes on Thursdays. Also looking at our City Line commuters, many commissioners have suggested that we look at potentially providing commuting service to the new D line that will be even closer than the B line to us. And then also looking at our City Line circulator buses that we have. There have been a lot of comments from commissioners that we need more prominent signage to show people where those internal circulators go and how often. There was a commissioner comment from an event that this commissioner was at where she learned that Coco and Waymo, with all the cameras that they have on them, can report information back to cities about problems with sidewalks and streets. So if that's something that we as a city want to do, that's something that those tech providers do. So I thought that was really interesting. It was also kind of a cautionary reminder to me that both of those devices have lots of cameras on them all the time, so remember that. And then another quick follow-up about the delivery robots. We commissioners had asked at the last meeting where we got an update about the delivery robots, we asked how much the human pilots behind the robots get paid. And so we heard back from Coco that they pay prevailing wages for their operators in Finland and the US, and Serve pay fair wages in North America, Europe, and Asia. And also, if a restaurant wants to not offer robots as one of their delivery services, they can reach out to Uber Eats support or to Serve or Coco directly, and supposedly that will work. So, thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Next, we have Jonathan Wilson. You'll have 3 minutes, Jonathan.
Good evening, commissioners. I should say chair, vice chair, and commissioners. With that said, my name is Jonathan Wilson. I am coming to you as a resident and also a business owner here in the city of West Hollywood. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what I'm seeing with public safety. Just to kick it off also, letting you guys know, I am running for city council, and I am just very concerned about some of the public safety here. With some of the things we've had recently, obviously in the past couple of weeks, we've seen people, we've seen a couple of different shootings. We've also seen people in large crowds get in fights. I do think there are several things that we are missing within the city. I think one of it is our ability to be able to activate quickly, right? There's no reason why we should have had that fight happening for so long with the sheriff's department half a block away. When we look at some of the reports and metrics, I've spoken to you guys maybe over the past couple of years about different reports and different metrics that we can do. Some of those enhancements you guys have made, so thank you for that. There's more to be done though. I think we have some efficiencies that we can really work on just in sort of what we're looking at, the underlying data that we're looking at as well. And then we talk about technology. Are there things that we can be doing more efficiently? Is it really, I don't know, it's just 3 years seem like a reasonable time to get the technology recommendations that we recommended back in 2023 implemented. I know that it's coming soon. We've been listening to that for the past 3 years. I really hope that we're all accelerating that and having it happen as quickly as possible. I do appreciate the people that we have that are working within our public safety, our community safety group, also people that we have that are part of our sheriff's department. I do think that there's ways that we can make things a little bit more efficient, right? When people go into the sheriff's department, I also notice that people are walking out without having made their reports. I had an individual in my apartment complex also, they actually got robbed on an elevator within my complex. They since moved out because they were so distraught and so traumatized by that experience. And with that said, I do believe there's an opportunity there. And they actually tried to report something to the sheriff's department, had the sheriff's come after it happened. No one came. They went to the sheriff's department to sit there and wait for hours on end before they actually were able to make a report. That was also traumatizing. So you have people that are traumatized already going into the sheriff's department to make a report just to find out that they're being delayed. So there's all sorts of efficiencies that I think we need to work on. Technology, reports, metrics. I would love to partner with any of you guys and all of you guys on what we need to do to make this a safer place for West Hollywood. So whatever we can do, let's try to do it together. But I'm coming to you just to share some of my concerns and just say, let's go. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next, we have Wendy Goldman. Wendy, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Wendy Goldman, resident of West Hollywood. Today I attended the funeral of Matan Koch, a distinguished member of the Jewish community who overcame many obstacles navigating life in a wheelchair. He attended Yale and Harvard, becoming an attorney who specialized in disability rights, leaving the world a better place. He changed my perception of compliance. He often couldn't attend a conference, event, or meeting due to the inaccessible location. We should do better and have a better understanding of inclusion and systemic disability bias. We should become more sensitive to the needs of the disabled because one day a temporary or permanent disability may change our lives. It may be invisible, like HIV/AIDS, neurodiversity, cancer, where outsiders cannot see our disability. We want society's acceptance, kindness, and respect. That leads me to my numerous requests to improve pedestrian safety on Sunset Strip. Has anyone on your commission placed this item on your agenda or taken any action? If so, it is not apparent to me since the pedestrian obstacles remain, including the big trash cans blocking bus stops, restaurant furniture on sidewalks, and signage that impedes pedestrians. Why has there been little compliance with ADA laws? I expect better from this commission. The sidewalks are simply not safe. I am not mentioning the scooters, bikes, and delivery robots. Thank you, Louise. One of our neighbors, Rebecca Pinus, a candidate for Beverly Hills City Council, recently wrote, quote, I can anecdotally tell you for myself and from decades of urban design research what works and what doesn't around a public transit station. It's also tied to public safety, and I think we've missed the mark by just focusing on only policing. It is not the only way to provide enhanced public and pedestrian safety. You need activated storefronts, pedestrian presence, a well-designed public realm in that area, and I'm shocked we've paid very little attention to enhancing an area that residents already live in, unquote. This comment applies to Sunset Strip and pedestrian safety. We already suffer from vacant storefronts at the old Chase Bank at Larrabee Street, shuttered stores near the Viper Room, long vacant 8920 Sunset, 9100 Sunset at Doheny, and the old Hornburg Project. Please help to clean up the Sunset Strip sidewalks, improve pedestrian safety, and beautify the strip. This won't take $4 million, I promise.
Thank you, Wendy. Next, we have Steve Martin. Steve, you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Steve Martin, West Hollywood. Good to see everybody. My catalytic converter got stolen this morning. That's the second time in a little over a year. My deductible was $500. Hopefully my deductible will kick in because otherwise it's at least $2,500. And just a lot of inconvenience. But, you know, at least I wasn't shot. And that's been a big concern, obviously, on the east side. And it's just become just sort of this increased sense that we're not a priority. And we understand that crime's happening all over the city. But it just seems that maybe we're being complacent, and it's not that I have criticisms of the sheriff. We all know that they're spread too thin, but sometimes it just doesn't seem like the city council is on our side. I mean, the whole issue with the flock cameras and sort of this faux issue of whether or not ICE might get the information, which really seems to not put the residents' safety and concerns first, particularly when it's something so far-fetched and indeed even silly. We really, I would tell you, I'm not going to vote for anybody in this coming city council election who is not going to support continuing the flock camera contract, who's not going to fight to get more law enforcement for West Hollywood, and to go to Sacramento and lobby so that we can put in red light cameras and just bring back some of the common sense things that we all know we need. Well, maybe we don't all know we need. But it's very frustrating to see outside interest like Smart Justice California, who's given $100,000 to John Erickson's Senate campaign. And, you know, they opposed Prop 36. They supported George Gascon. They're not pro-resident. They're not pro-keeping us safe. And there's going to be consequences for that. And there will be an accounting for that. And people will have the opportunity to express their concerns, both on June 2nd and in November. And I think we will, because there's a large sense that there's a major disconnect between the governing and the governed here in this community. And I think you each need to look at yourselves and decide whether you're part of the solution or part of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we have Victor Omochenko. You will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Victor Omolchenko, and I arrived here on our safe bike lanes, those that we have, and I know as a city we're working on improving our infrastructure. But for me, bike lanes aren't the only game in town. That was a wonderful movie, 1970, with Warren Beatty and Elizabeth Taylor, set in Las Vegas. So what I wanted to say is that I'm a 24-year resident currently living in the city center, city neighborhood, and as a former Public Facilities Commissioner, I thank you for your work on behalf of the city. I'm here tonight as an active resident concerned about the upcoming 2026 through 2028 budget. The Budget Subcommittee meets this Thursday at 5 p.m. in the community conference room at City Hall, and it's vital that residents and individual commissioners and individual advisory board members make their voices heard. Now, we're seeing a lot of political movement right now. Councilmember Erickson is seeking higher office in Senate District 24, and several people in this room have similar aspirations. I see Ms. Krieger, Mr. Brazil, and Mr. Wilson. But campaigning for the future shouldn't mean staying silent in the present. On March 2nd, in these city council chambers, Vice Mayor Hang warned all commissioners and advisory board members that they are being watched and that they are being listened to and that they are being reported on. This is a chilling, authoritarian tone that discourages the very oversight we need. And to the commissioners tonight, including Mr. Post, now running for city council, I ask, will you be the advocates the residents need, or will you stay quiet to avoid political friction? We saw the results of the 7811 Santa Monica appeal recently, where safety concerns were sidelined. We saw the results of the 2022 deputy cuts. As the council prepares the new two-year budget, this commission must move past the calculated silence of the past. You may have already provided some input into the new budget, but I urge you to consider making a formal motion tonight directing staff to prioritize a full restoration or even a greater enhancement of sheriff resources in the budget. Let's lead with the safety of West Hollywood residents, not the preservation of political careers. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. And our final speaker is Nick Roybal. Nick, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, commissioners. Hi. As you all know, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And as a teacher and a poet, I want to read 3 lines to you by Adrienne Rich and then address something. This is from an atlas of the difficult world. What does it mean to say, I have survived? Until you take the mirrors and turn them outward and read your own face in their outraged light. It occurred to me recently, there is a venue in the Rainbow District, a site of something taken from many, many, many people. Trans women, queer people. That something was taken and they will never get that back. And I wonder, I appreciate the city's campaign, but I think it is important that the memories of that violence at that site remain active, because that site has not changed. You can invite whomever you want, whatever big celebrity has whatever big album coming out. That does not take away the takings of people, of our community members. And I want us all to remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And that is all the public comments.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to new business and hear from our Los Angeles County Fire Department. Welcome.
I'm here to report on the March 2026 fire activity report. I'm here in place of Chief Smith, who could not attend. In regards to the activity report, we had 10 reported fires that we responded on, 532 medical calls, 1 hazmat or hazardous materials call, 21 public service calls, and 79 good intent calls. Collectively, we treated 532 patients. 124 of those were advanced life support. 199 were basic life support. Also, a number that we have here that I'm sharing is we treated 42 persons experiencing homelessness. And in comparison to last year around the same time, as far as patients seen, it's up by 100. Whether it be age or medical conditions. Aside from that, that's all I have. Questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Pilarski?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here tonight. I have a question. Maybe it's actually for staff. But I did see that there was a promotion for the city for doing fire alarm installations. And I wasn't sure if that was through LA County Fire or if that was through the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Pilarski. So that effort is being done through the American Red Cross. Anyone who would like a fire alarm installed in their home, or maybe if they have an old one and they'd want one replaced to make sure it's in working order or not expired, the American Red Cross will come out free of charge. You just need to call to make an appointment, and they will come out to provide you and install a new fire alarm in your home.
Okay, so if I were one of them, hypothetically, I would reach out to this, the Department of Public Safety with the City of West Hollywood, and you would connect me? Or would I reach out to the American Red Cross?
Yes, we're happy to connect residents to the American Red Cross. So you're absolutely, if you're interested, just email us at safety@weho.org. You're also welcome to directly contact the American Red Cross. I think this is a national effort that they are making. So if you Google the American Red Cross fire alarm replacements, it'll take you directly to them to make an appointment directly.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Commissioner Ng?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for bringing that up. Commissioner Pilarski, I actually would like to add, if people would remember also your carbon monoxide detectors. And then, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, and I know
Oh,
you.
it's Chief Munoz.
Chief Winnis?
Munoz.
Munoz, I'm so sorry. Okay. So, Chief Munoz, I'm wondering if you have any theories or ideas about why medical is up almost 20% from this time last year?
Just from years on the job and work in various areas, the population does age. With age, age does bring medical conditions, which in turn create additional calls that may have not been there the year before. Also, tied into that are just unplanned events that occur in the city, or people traveling through the city that experience a medical emergency. Those are factored in as well. But I would say the majority would be age-related conditions that come along.
Well, that's really interesting to know. Thank you. Also noticed a huge decrease in good intent calls, and I'm curious about that as well.
Yeah, the good intent calls are those will vary from one year to the next, and that is due to the personnel that call. Good intent, those are all encompassing. Somebody calls in for someone else, maybe it's a false alarm. It's written off as a good intent. Somebody calls something in, and it's not actually what they perceive, and that's also documented as a good intent call. So those will vary depending on how many are called in.
Thank you. Commissioner Post?
Yes, thanks, Chief Munoz. You just cited those 42 patients that you worked on that were homeless.
Yes.
Or experiencing homelessness. What was the process like afterwards? Were all those folks being transported to the local hospital because of their injuries, or if not that severe, is there some type of connection that you all are working with, kind of the rest of our coordinated response team, especially like WeHo Cares and folks, to get those folks services after? If you could just kind of walk us through that process.
Yeah, as far as the every patient, once again, will vary in the disposition. Those that did suffer medical emergencies were transported, and majority of their persons that are experiencing homelessness, when they do call, it is something significant. A majority are transported. There are those that choose not to be, and within reason, they can sign out. And at that point, they would be connected to services, or at least it would be offered. Whether it's taken or not, it's up to the person.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Winnick?
Chief Munoz, as I'm looking at the fire activity report, it looks like we have a lot of rubbish fires, and are these all apparently caused by homeless people, and is there something that can be done to mitigate the likelihood of these occurring?
The rubbish fires are, as far as the cause, many are under investigation unless it's a witness. But rubbish could be accidental in nature as well. Not all of them are person experiencing homelessness. But as far as the mitigation, it would just be securing containers, trash containers. Usually dumpsters are a cause, and a lot of them have locks on them. I've driven through the city. I've seen many with locks, and that does help. Aside from that, it's just general upkeep of the areas. Yes.
I know that smoking cigarettes and other things can be tossed into trash and cause fires. Some places have receptacles for cigarettes next to trash cans. Is that something that would be helpful here, or we don't have an indication that that would be needed?
As far as maybe in the general area, I would not recommend next to the trash can. I mean, if you miss a receptacle, it goes into the can. But general area should help. However, I'd be cautious to not encourage that in the area as well. I mean, that's also something that should be looked at.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, we have one, Victor Omolchenko.
Thank you.
If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Victor Omolchenko, thank you again. I live here in West Hollywood, and I thank you for the report and for keeping us safe, a candy from these natural hazards. I'm just going to go outside these chambers. I bicycled in Pacific Palisades recently. There is some rebuilding going on, but the thing that made me wonder was all those people trying to escape the fire down those narrow roads, leaving their cars, running, cars catching on fire, some of them dying. I wonder, are those houses now going to be rebuilt? And how can the fire department, I guess that's the City of Los Angeles Fire Department, get up to those streets? That said, I am deeply concerned about the recently approved project by the City Council on a 4-to-1 vote. Only Lauren Meister supported the residents in their appeal of the 7811 Santa Monica Boulevard project. That is the massive 7-story, 171 units of hotel and residential apartments just east of Fairfax and Santa Monica, where the Whole Foods lot is. Years ago, it had 3 access points, but over time, these were reduced to a single point of ingress and egress on North Orange Grove Drive, next to the Fountain Day School with 200 toddlers. I want to know where the fire department stands on what is called this single point of failure before a fire occurs, and then we're all empathetic and wanting to know what we can do. Has it been physically verified that a 30-ton fire truck engine can navigate that radius of that one and only ingress and egress on North Orange Grove Drive, and especially during drop-off hours for the school kids? We need to see a more preemptive involvement from the fire department and this commission in the planning phase. We cannot rely on emotional, empathetic, post-fire analyses when we are building immense high-density projects with restricted access in a highly trafficked neighborhood. And I am so disappointed that the citizen appeal had not been upheld. And I hold council members Erickson, Hang, Heilman, and Byers to that. And we shall see what happens. Thank you, Councilmember Meister, for supporting residents.
Thank you, Victor. And that is all the public comments on this item.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Munoz. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you to the citizens as well. Appreciate you.
And next up, we will hear from our LA County sheriffs. Oh, sorry. Skipped ahead, guys. We're going to do security ambassador for folks from Allied. Welcome. And Danny. Who's appearing.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll begin by going over the citywide totals for. Thank you. No. Can you hear me now? Perfect. Thank you. Good evening. I'll begin by going over the citywide totals for March. Hospitality assistance totaled at 1,760, and business contacts at 1,624. Unhoused contacts increased to 1,741. For calls for service, it rose to 711. Safety escorts at 71, which showed an increased demand for direct assistance. We also saw an increase in sheriff assistance at 85 and EMS and fire response at 56. Scooter-related activity remained relatively steady at 250. Overall, this did reflect the shift towards more response-driven and service-focused activity across the city. Following that, our average response time for March was 7 minutes. Additional data points, we referred a total of 1,741 calls to the Homeless Concern Line. We are currently operating at 100% staffing, and we've achieved a 100% training completion rate. This confirms that our ambassadors are fully trained and compliant. That concludes my March overview, and we're happy to take any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Vice Chair Blau.
Press the button 10 times. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. I really appreciate it. Question, how are the bike patrols running around? Can you give us an update on that?
Absolutely. We have them through every zone. We have bike patrol on the west side, mid-city, and the east side.
And how many bike patrols do you have kind of going on an average day throughout the city?
On average, I would say we have a total of about 10 per shift.
Okay.
On average.
And the goal with the bike patrols, and I haven't done a ride along with the bike patrols yet. What did they? Can you kind of walk me through or walk us through what would happen? Would they, if they see something, I assume they would pull over and stop and investigate?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So as far as bike patrol, in the event that they, just like foot patrol, vehicle patrol, in the event that they see something, they are to pull over to the side and make a call, say something.
Okay. And do they focus more on the main roads, or how much do they venture into the residential areas? I would assume with the bikes, they're able to cover more ground. So maybe the residentials would be a better hit.
It varies on the zone that they are assigned to. For instance, in the event that they are assigned to the west zone, there is less residential. In the event that, let's say, they are assigned to the east, of course, they will be more patrolling towards residential more.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Eng.
Thank you, Chair. Valerie, I notice on the report where you have EMS and police response, it says calls. And I'm wondering if there are any, I guess, data reports about observations. Because I would imagine that some of what's being generated is your people just out on the street, right, calling. So I'm just curious if that's reflected anywhere. Because these reports for EMS and fire, it'll say time the call was received, which I presume means that it's being reported, versus your people just observing things on the street. I'm just curious about that.
Correct. Yes, the observations are being recorded on the incident reports.
Okay, but not here where it says EMS and fire, correct? Because that seems to be where whatever is happening on the street requires further action by fire or police. And I guess I'm wondering why those, or how that's reported, or why it's not reported.
I would definitely look into that.
Okay, thank you. Then there's two other things. On the fire report, it was mentioned, or actually I guess three, that there has been a recurring fire at 1200 Gardner. I don't know if that's something that you can sort of make the teams aware of and have them sort of just be aware of, like, trouble spots like that. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And then I did mention this to you when I saw you on the street recently, but I had an occasion to call. And as I mentioned, you know, a lot of times what happens is if you observe something, you don't call right away. I had to wait till I felt a safe distance, right, so that the person wouldn't hear me call. By the time I called and turned around, that individual was gone. So I hung up. And then, as I mentioned, you all called back and you texted, and I just wanted to state that because at first I thought, well, I hung up because there was no need. And then I realized that you all called back to make sure that, you know, I wasn't snatched or whatever. So I do want to point that out and I guess compliment you all for doing that. And then finally, I heard Louise mention that, you know, she's had some issues or that residents are having issues. And while I know it's not the most ideal thing, I do regularly call for escort, or I guess, yeah, I have called for escort. It's been a while, but I have. Or when I observe them on the street, I ask for escort or have asked for escort. I think maybe only once or twice has someone said no, and they said it was a shift change. Actually, someone once said no. There was a team, and then the other guy said, "How far are you going?" And I said, "1 block." And he said, "Okay, I'll go with you." And he explained to me the only reason that the other guy said no was because we were on shift change. So I really do feel that the team is really diligent and on top of it. And if it's possible, I just want to remind residents that this is a service that they should be utilizing. Thank you.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Valerie. How are you? I wanted to say that this month I did request 2 safety escorts, and the professionalism of the ambassadors was fantastic, so thank you. One of the things that had come up while we were chatting on the walk home was, so maybe something you can clarify for me, because it also goes along with Commissioner Hallman's question, I think from last month, about the patrolling of the residential neighborhoods. They mentioned something to the effect that now they are allowed to go into residential neighborhoods because now they know the boundaries of the city. Because before we were training everyone and we weren't sure that everyone knew the exact boundaries of the city of West Hollywood, so they could have, wandered off and patrolled a different part. Am I interpreting that correctly?
For some of the new ambassadors, correct. It was a training issue that Jackie and myself actually had discovered while we were retraining the team, one individual at a time.
Got it. All right. Well, I appreciate that. They walked me right through my residential neighborhood home, so thank you. The other thing that has come up a couple times, because I requested safety escorts last month, was that the WeHo Cares team takes too long to get there. That's often what everyone says. And I was wondering, every time I hear that, I ask how long, and they say about 30 minutes. Is that consistent with what you're hearing from your team?
We've communicated to our team that in the event that, let's say, it does take longer, to make sure that they make a second phone call, perhaps leave a voicemail. We understand that sometimes the call volume might be higher than other days.
Okay. And specifically, there was a gentleman on our street that was deaf, and I asked for WeHo Cares, to put the call in immediately because I wasn't sure if we had those services. And unfortunately, we weren't able to help him. So I guess I will circle back with you, Danny, on how we can talk to WeHo Cares team. Maybe they can come and give an update, or we can talk to council about that again. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I brought this up in our last meeting. I heard the exact same feedback regarding WeHo Cares, and they were, the ambassadors were doing the best they could with this individual, but at some point had to leave to go back to their post, which was in the park, near the Salguero Fountain Park. So yeah, I think it's a really good idea to get an update and see, how we can maybe better support WeHo Cares, because 1,700 calls for unhoused, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time out of your schedules. I mean, we don't have 1,700 unhoused people in this city, so I imagine you are dealing with these same people over and over and over again. And there's just hopefully some, the best coordination possible will, move forward so that it decreases that amount. I mean, that's a massive number. Between that and the amount of time you're taking to move scooters off the streets, which really is not the primary function, but I know it's part of public safety and helpful to individuals who can't pass by streets. I just really agree with, really need to look at that, figure out how to make it work better. We've got the resources. Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Post, sorry.
Yes, thank you for the report, Valerie. So I know there's been concerns about the street fights that happened or have happened recently. From my understanding, your protocol for ambassadors in that situation would be to just call the sheriffs, right? They will not probably get engaged or even try to pull people apart. They would just not engage in that situation. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are safety oriented. Our priority is to de-escalate and make that phone call to LASD.
And my next question is more so for staff as part of that. I know I think we're getting the community safety officers up and running, those folks that are more of the in-between with the sheriffs, doing smaller investigatory pieces, doing other reports. Is there a different level in which those community safety officers may engage in the community, or will they maybe not be out in those situations? Just trying to think about who out on our streets would be able to engage and break up something like that, especially if there's a longer response time for the sheriffs.
Thank you, Commissioner Post. So our community safety officer program, the intention of that is to allow the community safety officers to respond to non-emergent calls in the community that don't have a suspect, or maybe, you know, it might be a traffic collision that needs a report, but there's no injuries on site. So the indirect benefit to your question is the purpose of that is to have our community safety officers deal with those non-emergency calls so that our deputies, our sheriff's department are available to respond and are more able to be present during during calls that are more require their presence, emergency related. So the community safety officers would not respond to those types of incidents, but they would be dealing with more, you know, the calls that maybe doesn't require a deputy's presence, freeing up the time of deputies to be more available and present in the community.
Thank you. And one quick follow-up for that. With the CSOs, will they be patrolling at all, or will they really be on call or waiting on deck?
The community safety officers will be dispatched directly to, so if somebody calls 911 and it's a non-emergency call, if there's no suspect, if there's no injury, they would immediately be dispatched directly to those calls. So they would constantly be en route to specific calls that they're dispatched to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, the first public speaker is Stephanie Harker. You will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. You know, I still have concerns about the safety for the ambassadors. I believe that we all know they're unarmed, and I don't know if I'm not supposed to ask directly, but hopefully they have been trained in pepper spray, because they are not safe. And I believe they are sitting ducks out there because they are not prepared or armed in any way. And, you know, the public doesn't really understand, and I think we should try and put this out further, that the ambassadors do not take the place of the sheriffs, that they're safety ambassadors. They can call the sheriffs, but, you know, also in the recent incident, you know, they said, well, we asked this security ambassador to do something. What was that individual supposed to do? Certainly not mix it up more. I think in regard to this 250 scooters, at least it's down about 200, I think, or maybe 100 from last month. But I really feel that the ambassadors, rather than just moving them, or maybe they shouldn't move them, maybe they should use the WeHo app, which I've been using lately, because Vista Street, for some reason, is always littered with robots stalled out in the public right-of-way, and that is an ADA violation. And if these 250 scooters or robots that are moved by the ambassadors, if those calls were sent in to WeHo, they then contact the companies, Uber and ServPro and et cetera, because I believe I heard not too long ago at Transportation that those citations, if there's an ADA violation, those are $400 a piece. So now the Uber and the scooter companies have the ambassadors working for them to avoid getting a citation. They should be cited. It's the only way these people are going to change. The ambassadors are not working for Uber. They work for us. They protect us. I'm glad that they're helping, taking them out of the way, but the companies need to be held responsible. This is absolutely absurd. And the other thing with scooters and bicycles in Plummer Park, the ambassadors have no way of stopping these kids. We have children terrorizing people, popping wheelies on their bikes, popping wheelies with scooters, running through the park, and there's nothing that the ambassadors can do about it. They need to be able to cite them or to somehow prevent them from even bringing the scooter into the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Kyle, were you speaking on this? That is all the comments on this item.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'd like to now call up Lieutenant Turner from our Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Welcome.
Good evening. For the month of March, West Hollywood station personnel handled a total of 1,800 calls for service. 86 of those calls were for an emergency response. Deputies made 54 felony arrests and 104 misdemeanor arrests. Our Part 1 crimes for the month, we had 133 incidents. When broken down by district, the West accounted for 62% with 83 incidents. City Center, 14% with 18 incidents. East, 24% with 32 Part 1 crimes. There were a total of 12 pickpocket thefts in the month of March. Our MET team responded to a total of 62 incidents, and our SORT submissions were also 62. Our West Hollywood Station volunteers donated a total of 239 hours in March. This month is National Volunteer Month, and we are grateful they were honored at City Council last week. I wanted to touch on some traffic incidents which occurred in the city in the month of March. There were a total of 5 vehicle versus pedestrian traffic collisions. 1, the driver was at fault. 1, the pedestrian at fault. And the remaining 3 are still currently under investigation. In March, there were 0 vehicle versus bicyclist collisions, which I don't think I've seen this number at 0 since I started presenting. So that's great news. 1 vehicle versus scooter or e-bike accident occurred, and that incident is still under investigation at this time. We had 3 DUI arrests in March, and we also had a traffic safety operation, which was conducted related to bicycle and pedestrian safety. 31 hazardous citations were issued, all related to bicycle and pedestrian safety. Common citations included failure to stop at stop signs, failure to yield to pedestrians, and distracted driving. I also wanted to report that of the 7 aggravated assaults in March, 2 arrests have been made. Our entertainment policing team has continued to be present outside of the bars and clubs, and the cops team continues to conduct bicycle patrols, and the EP team has continued its bait bike operations. In March, 4 suspects were arrested during the bait bike operations. We have continued to meet with our law enforcement fire partners in the city of West Hollywood for Pride 2026, scheduled to take place June 5th through the 7th. And although the recent criminal activity that has been very concerning did not take place in March, but in April, I recognize there is a need to discuss the 2 shootings and the 2 major fights in the Rainbow District. Regarding the 2 shootings, they are actively being investigated. Based on the investigation thus far, the 2 shootings do not appear to be connected in any way, and they both appear to be targeted, isolated attacks. The fight on Santa Monica and San Vicente had already dispersed when deputies arrived on scene. And the second fight that hit the news that took place, a felony assault report was taken, and it's currently under investigation. In response to the shootings, we have increased patrols on the east side, and in response to the fights, we have put in place designated foot patrols in the Rainbow District, and security ambassadors have also been allocated to the Rainbow District with enhanced foot patrols on Fridays and Saturdays between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you, Chair. I think my questions were answered. Thank you. I wanted to ask about the 2 shootings, and is there any additional information you can give us in regards to those investigations? And you also spoke about the fight 2 weeks ago at Santa Monica and San Vicente. You said the fight had dispersed by the time sheriffs arrived, correct?
That's correct, sir.
So do we know what caused that fight? I'm curious, or it's just...
Yeah, once deputies arrived, there was no one to contact to ascertain what had occurred. So we don't have anything additional on that. As far as the shootings, other than that, we believe they're isolated attacks and not connected in any way. It's still very much an active investigation, and I can't comment further on that at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Blau.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lieutenant Turner. Good evening.
Good evening.
Quick question. I see flock stats are added onto the agenda. Maybe it was there last month, but I'm just noticing it this month now. I love seeing that, but I want to know what they represent. So like 54 stolen vehicle. Is that 54 hits off of the ALPR cameras across the city, or 54 that we've kind of followed up on, or help me understand those numbers?
The stolen vehicles, that's 54 hits on
Okay.
stolen vehicles that have traversed within our city and been captured on our flock cameras. And the felony vehicle stat, those are felony vehicles that we stopped and made arrests on.
Oh wow, okay, great. And so I think that's great to see, and great to see the technology helping out there. On the stolen vehicle one, are multiples removed from that? So for instance, say the stolen vehicle was driving down Santa Monica straight through the city. I don't actually know where all the cameras are, but assuming that there's one on Doheny in Santa Monica, and then there's the ones on La Brea in Santa Monica, would that show up as twice?
No, that would not show up as twice.
Okay, cool. Wow, great. Let's see. When you were talking about the pedestrian safety activation that was going on, you mentioned some of the failures, like failure to stop. What's the average citation value for that? Or what's the average citation amount? What's the range even look like? I have no idea.
So the courts set those amounts, and we don't set those amounts, so unfortunately I don't have that information.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify, welcome, a question that you said, those incidents, the shootings were unrelated, but you said targeted? And can you just elaborate? I just want to be clear on that. Does that mean that...
As in they weren't random. Based on the
They weren't.
investigation
That's
thus
what I
far,
wanted to know,
they appear to be targeted
Okay,
incidents.
great. And then just a general, I don't know if I'm looking for an answer to this, but obviously we noticed, my neighbors in my area, I live pretty close to Norton, where this happened around the corner, you know, an increase in patrols when these things happen. So we definitely noticed that. I guess, you know, the question that I think I have and a lot of people I know have are, why isn't that consistently the case? Yeah, I also feel that way about these special operations. Like why is giving a citation for failing to, or for running a stop sign, doing an illegal U-turn, why does it have to be, and maybe you can explain this again because I believe you did previously, why is that a special event? And why is that not an everyday event and part of the job?
As far as the traffic
As far as
enforcement,
traffic goes.
it is enforced every day, and it is part of the job every day. Whenever we have an operation, we bring in extra people to assist with those operations, and that's why the citation numbers are enhanced, because we have additional personnel here on that day for the operation.
And they're funded specially, correct, as well?
Correct.
Okay. And what is staffing currently at? Are you fully staffed at this point?
No, I believe we are not fully staffed at this time.
By what number?
I don't have the vacancy report numbers in front of me, but that's something I can definitely report back on next time.
And is that due to lack of candidates or the cycle? Because I know we fall into a pecking line within the overall sheriff's organization. Like we can't just hire, right? It sort of has to go through. Is there?
You know, department-wide, we have been short deputies for some years now.
Right. Okay. Which is affecting us.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Eng.
Thank you, Chair. Just real quick before we get to that question, and so I do want to clarify that as well. One of the things that's a part of a metric for every contract city with the Sheriff's Department is to ensure that there is a level of patrol compliance. So even if a station, like all stations throughout the county of Los Angeles that have a contract city agreement, right, for municipal law enforcement services, such as West Hollywood, they all have vacancies. And so when those vacancies do occur, the station and the sheriff's department is still responsible for backfilling that vacancy. And so they'll generally do that within the station and the personnel themselves, where they're opening up overtime, right, for another deputy, because we want to make sure that we have consistency or somebody that is obviously familiar with the community that's there to kind of fill that void. If you're unable to do that, then they open it up to the rest of the stations throughout the county of Los Angeles. So I just want to make sure, yes, there are vacancies, but those vacancies, I don't want the commission or the community to think, well, you know, if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 vacancies, does that mean that we're 2, 3, 4, 5 deputies short on that shift? And the answer to that is no, because again, in our contract, in terms of patrol compliance, the sheriff's department needs to ensure that they're capable of filling that void. But of course, that runs into deputies that are working several hours of overtime, right? And so it's a, I don't want to call it a dance, but obviously within the station, the command staff, it's important for them to ensure, right, that you're not having a burnout factor, right, that you're not having other issues that come with the overtime, right, that's needed in order to kind of fill those gaps and those voids. And that is something that Sheriff Luna, right now with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, continues to kind of stress with the contract cities in terms of the progress that the Sheriff's Department is making in terms of hiring, doing outreach and marketing, and the number of candidates that they have that are actually going through their Sheriff's Department academies, right, to increase those numbers, right? So they're having more deputies or trainees or cadets, right, that are going through that program, right, and are graduating and are becoming full-fledged deputies, right? So I just want to make sure that, again, that the commission, the community is aware of that, because I know that question comes up quite frequently, but I thought it's a good point to kind of add that context.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for adding that. I do think it's important, but we can also assume then that some of those are coming from outside of the West Hollywood community, not working in it as regularly, right, as other deputies. I mean, that's just by nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that does happen. That happens throughout throughout the stations, and know that, I mean, and Lieutenant Turner can add, and even Captain Lapkin, obviously she's not here, but you know, for those deputies too, or folks that have worked in West Hollywood before and maybe have promoted out, right, to different stations, we do see a number of them that do come back and are always putting in to work overtime here in the station. So even though they may not be permanently assigned, they've worked here at some point, right? And so those are always individuals, as they're seeing, that are signing up, that are prioritized in terms of coming over. But you are right, Chair. There are moments where you have somebody that's never worked West Hollywood. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Eng.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start my other comments, but to complete this conversation, something I've also been told is that the training program is 3 years. So if that hiring freeze just ended, we have to consider the fact that all of these new people are going through the 3-year training program. So that's going to take some time. You're not actually looking like you're agreeing, so I'm not sure if that was accurate.
So the academy time is 6 months right now. Now, when a deputy comes out to patrol, and people do come out to patrol fairly quickly. Some people go directly to patrol. They don't go work custody, depending on what station it is. They are on training for another 6 months patrol training. With a field training officer. So it's not 3 years, but a little shorter than that.
All right, well, thank you for clearing that up. And then I'm going to go into my other comments. I'll start with Vista shooting. I live very close to there, and this actually is not a question, but maybe more of a response to our chair. I know someone who lives in the building. Who essentially said at the time that they thought it was targeted because the driver or the shooter shot into the building, into one unit only, not the entirety of the building. And after the shooting happened, the victim herself declined to share any information with the building, so the neighbors theorized that it was targeted, and that's just a side comment. Okay, let's see. I noticed that assault with a deadly weapon had a huge increase. In fact, there were quite a few that had really large increases, and I'm wondering if there's any explanation or theory for that.
No explanation. We definitely recognize that, there was an increase in the aggravated assaults. But again, we're being proactive. We have increased patrols. We're briefing deputies on what's going on. We're taking a look at where the crime is occurring and making sure that those areas receive targeted patrols.
Okay. And then you actually mentioned the bike versus, or pedestrian versus auto, oh no, I'm sorry, bike versus auto stat, and you said that there was like none. I actually attended an event hosted by WehoBike that our lovely co-commissioner was one of the planning people of. Something that was reflected in that meeting was that the incidences of bikes maybe being hit by cars or having incidences with cars aren't always accurately recorded. And given, all of the comments about data, I do think it's worth noting that these are happening but not being reported. I'm wondering, because I know that there's that online portal now for reporting, whatever things to report online. I know you guys, do you know what I'm talking? Yeah. So is it possible to add anything in regard to bike reporting? Would that be possible to add to maybe streamline that process or make it more likely that people will report it?
So for the sort submissions, that wouldn't be something they could report because most likely there would be possible injuries, possible workable information, and the sort system is not designed to take those types of reports at this time. But we are working on a virtual deputy program where someone could meet with somebody on a Teams meeting. And that's something other stations have had great success with, and that's something we're looking to do at West Hollywood Station. So someone could make an appointment and from the comfort of their home have that appointment with a deputy and that report be taken via Teams.
So I will point out that not every vehicle and bike incident involves an injury, because sometimes, you're a biker, Yeah, so I'll just point that out. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Sure, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Eng, for attending our Bike Coalition event. I have a few things. I wanted to say, first and foremost, I feel pretty safe in West Hollywood, and I love it here. So I know that there are some challenging things that are happening that are sometimes reflective of the larger environment that's going on in the world right now. And we have a gun problem in this country, so that is also something that's scary everywhere. But I feel very safe, and I went on a ride-along last week, and it was such a eye-opening and pleasant experience, and I wanted to say thank you so much for organizing that. Initially, I wasn't going to do a ride-along, and I'm so glad that I did. It was a really wonderful experience, and I'll get into a little bit of that here, but just a couple of questions. The DUI numbers from last month, were those two that we were off by, were those updated in the March data?
We updated them on our end, yes.
Yeah,
There was
okay.
a discussion with the crime.
Okay, just wanted to follow up on that. And then I also wanted to say thank you. I think we made an arrest on our sexual perpetrator on Fountain Avenue. So I appreciate all the effort that was paid to that. Feeling more safe on Fountain now that that person is no longer there. So as I said, I did a ride-along, and this kind of came out of a interesting interaction with a deputy, and I spoke to Lieutenant Turner, and I said, hey, that made me feel kind of gross. What can we do to talk through that? And so I went on a ride along, and one of the things that I want to talk through, some of the public comment, is that these guys have so many reports that they need to do, and unfortunately, and this is something out of our hands, is that the connection between the reports that they do in their car and the reports that they need to do at the station and the reports that they need to do for the county are not connected because their systems are so old that they have to do basically double reporting. And that is a massive IT streamline problem that we need to take to Sacramento. These guys would have so much more time to be out there and to take more calls and to, you know, ticket people that are running stop signs if they didn't have to basically do double work, which is just part of the system. So the system is kind of like not working for us right now, and it needs to be taken up to the state level. And I know that there are something in the works at the county level, but it's a massive effort. So that was really eye-opening. The other thing that I really enjoyed was that it was such a community feel when the sheriff deputies ride around with their windows down on purpose. It's cold out and they leave them down because that allows you to be able to come over and flag them or scream at them from the sidewalk, and that they will, you know, you'll get their attention. So that was really nice to hear. The other thing that they mentioned was the importance of some of the follow-up that happens to you after a crime. And when we were going through the sexual assault awareness walk on Sunday, one of the things Deputy Siaka mentioned was that it's important to get a toxicology report if you do feel like your drink has been spiked or that you've been a victim of a drink spiking crime, because without that report, it's difficult for them to do anything, which makes sense because there's not always a witness for that crime. So I wanted to highlight that here. And then the other thing I learned was that you can call the station and ask for extra enforcement in your neighborhood. One of the things that happens in my neighborhood is that people blow through the stop signs constantly and hit me and other neighbors in the crosswalk every other day. It is amazing how many people have threatened my life because I've asked them to stop fully at a stop sign over the last 3 weeks. I was just talking to Commissioner Post about this. It's jarring. Road rage is real, and people don't like to stop. And they also do not like to back up out of the crosswalk. That is not a thing we like to do. So if you are having a problem in your neighborhood, please call the Sheriff's Department and ask for extra enforcement and say thank you when they get there. Sorry, I do have a few things here. My next two questions are for staff, and it's coming out of the Vision Zero conversation that we had last month and the data. And I wanted, one of my fellow residents brought up, we've got all this data. What are we doing with it? And I hear you. So I wanted to know, in February, we had the semi-annual report. We presented that to council, and there were 10 intersections that were problematic that we showed in that report. So I wanted to know if our public safety department, our sheriffs, and our ambassadors have been involved in some collaborations between departments to improve the safety at those intersections, and if there was any update on the programs that we have currently in place.
Thank you, Commissioner Pilarski. So we do collaboratively every time a complaint comes through to the city, or we have data about a certain intersection or a certain street or any kind of issue that we have involving the city. To your point, it involves a lot of departments. It's never one person's isolated issue. Right. So we always do share. We're really good in the city, and along with our law enforcement partners, our security ambassadors, we constantly meet, we review data together, we talk about the points of areas that are of concern, we shift resources, we share information with our traffic engineering teams, with our facilities teams. So all of these issues, it is a collaborative approach because everyone has a different angle that they contribute to address it. So we are working at them. The intersections that you had all shared, we also shared that with our city clerk, who took it over to our Transportation and Mobility Commission to address we included our traffic engineer in that communication as well. So their ability to kind of assess what is causing this, is there a way to shift anything, change anything, look at it differently? And then of course, from our law enforcement perspective, it's the added patrols, it's the added enforcement, it's the special operations. So it's kind of that collective approach to address the issues that are happening in the city.
Thank you. And one of the notes, I just wanted to acknowledge some of our public speakers here today, because this is kind of the first time, and I really love it, where we're all talking about the delicate fabric of our sidewalks and how the city of Los Angeles has a complicated relationship with public space, and we all have to share. So if we are finding that maybe public safety's purview is not sidewalk code enforcement, who do we need to talk to make sure that these things are getting addressed?
So again, it affects multiple departments and multiple issues. So from a commission standpoint, our Transportation and Mobility Commission touches on a lot of those issues involving the scooters, the delivery robots, those types of concerns. We, from a public safety standpoint, address if there's unhoused that are kind of building encampments that are blocking the right of way. We work with our ambassadors and our sheriff's department to address issues concerning that. And then we will also work with our facilities team. So if people leave behind a lot of trash that gets in the way of people being able to walk across, they come in and clean that. So it's kind of, again, that collaborative approach of fixing the issue. And what we ask the community to do is just please report. One of our community members brought up the point about the app. When you submit a report to that app, the benefit of that as the community member is you don't have to worry about which department do I have to call, or who is this, or whose responsibility is that. You just, a one-stop shop, you enter it in that system, and then the system, we on the city side, multiple departments will get pinged depending on the issue, and then we address all of our sections issues revolving that. So all we can ask is, unfortunately we can't be everywhere at all times, so if any point you come across an issue, a concern, a safety issue, an ADA issue, is just to please report it immediately. And the city, again, you hear about the response times with our public safety, with our safety ambassadors. We do try to get on those issues right away.
Thank you. I have one more. And I know this has come up possibly in the Transportation and Mobility Commission, but I wanted to just ask, maybe I should have asked it during the safety ambassadors, but how would we go about collaborating with like a crossing guard position at intersections where people feel unsafe to cross the street, large intersections? Is that something that the city could support as a public safety policy or position, or is that something that we would need to do separately?
You could definitely, as a commission, kind of make that recommendation to staff, to us, and then we'd be happy to take that, push that recommendation, share it forward. So yeah, definitely, I could take note of that now, or again, during the commissioner comments, you could definitely bring that option up, and then we'd be happy to push that forward as a recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, because the last item I have here is that in a month, we're inviting a lot of people to our city, right, for World Cup, and they are not from here, and they don't know the culture around cars in LA here, and we don't want too many people getting hit in the crosswalk the way they hit me. So I would like to ask staff to look into what that means as a cross collaboration with the resources that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, will do.
Okay, that's great. Commissioner Post?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Lieutenant Turner. Quickly on the shootings, I know you all said you added additional patrols, and similar to just clarifying what Danny was talking about, are those folks only up to our contracted level, like, or folks from our department that are doing overtime, or are you actually bringing in additional deputies that are on our streets currently because of those shootings, or is it more just that our current deputies are just walking the streets more?
To answer your question, we have, and thank you, Director Rivas, for clarifying the staffing levels. We have minimum staffing levels that we have to meet. So, day shift, PM shift, early morning shift, we have specific numbers that we have to have a certain number of deputies out and about. But whenever we have, events such as 2 shootings taking place so close to one another, we will hire additional over the minimum staffing levels. And generally, our deputies do a very good job with filling our overtime. And Director Rivas was correct in that many people that promote, move on to different assignments, they come back and they work overtime at West Hollywood because they like working in West Hollywood. So most of those people are familiar with our community. But to specifically answer your question, we augment the staffing beyond minimum staffing.
Thank you. And one other quick question on the shootings. I know that there were both Nixle updates sent out about those shootings. I was looking back, I think the first event, it was sent out 4 hours after the shooting actually happened, and the second one was within the hour of the shooting actually happening. They were more posed as updates rather than what I've seen sometimes on your social media, which is kind of stay out of the area. This incident is kind of ongoing. So if you could just talk about kind of what is used to determine what is included in a Nixle update like that, because I think folks do use Nixle and encourage other folks to please sign up for Nixle in the community to get those updates. And I think that might be an avenue to know that there's something happening right on your streets. But just if you could talk a little bit more about kind of what goes into those Nixle updates.
To answer your question, sometimes we use social media, and sometimes we use Nixle. Definitely Nixle was used on both shootings. I think with that first shooting being the Nixle going out 4 hours later, I'm not sure why that occurred, but that's definitely something we need to look into, why that, that lapse of time. But it also depends, who's present, the time of day, how fast it gets done. All those factors kind of come into play. But thank you for that, for notating that, and we will definitely look into making sure all those are, whether it be social media or Nixle, all the same information goes out, and it's all, the same, so there's no mixed messaging.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, and I know both of those were notified sooner than what the city was able to put out as well. So I think you all are doing a good job there. I know there was some talk about the pedestrian enforcement, and there seemed like to be a lot of hit and runs. I think there was 36 misdemeanor hit and runs. I know those might not just be with people or bicycles. Are those also like people just hitting parked cars, things like that? And has there ever been any thought of like doing a PSA? I know that I always see sheriff stuff about like don't drink and drive, but I feel like there have been hit and run cases that have resulted in deaths or very serious injuries, and I just was wondering if there's been any discussion around doing some type of PSA around hit and runs.
We have discussions about PSAs all the time, and I will definitely add that into the mix. I think that's a great idea.
Then lastly, quick question on the drone piece. I know we talked a little bit about Flock. I know that county guidance, I think, was supposed to come around this time, end of April, we were told. I just wanted to see if there was an update on when we could be expecting that item to come either back to us or back to council if it's not going to be coming to us first.
Thank you, Commissioner Post. And perfect timing. You're getting a little ahead of it. We're planning on providing that during items from staff, but the commission can expect a review of the drone policy from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department at next commission meeting. And then the plan is to take that to the City Council on June 15th. So the department policy has been approved. We did receive that this month. And so we're just, obviously assessing that, reviewing it, looking at what was brought prior to the council, and looking at what's in place now. But yeah, there'll be certainly more information, more to come, but the plan is to put it on the agenda for Public Safety Commission, as well as the community, of course, in that discussion, and then bringing it to the City Council on June 15th.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, I have a question for Danny Rivas, and this is just trying to understand a little bit better as the city gets involved in budgeting in so many different ways. I want to be clear. We have a contract with the Sheriff's Department. It has certain staffing levels that are required. When the sheriff needs to incur overtime in order to comply with our staffing requirements in our contract, who pays for the overtime? How does that get paid?
Great question, Commissioner Winnick. So in terms of fulfilling the minimum deployment resources that we've established with the Sheriff's Department, in order to fill that void or that gap as a result of a vacancy, that is incurred by the Sheriff's Department. We only pay the regular contract rate for deputy staff, but if a deputy is working overtime, they're getting time and a half or whatever it is, that extra cost is absorbed by the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, we have 3. First one is Victor Molchenko.
Okay.
You will have 3 minutes.
Victor Omolchenko, West Hollywood once again. Where do I start? Thank you, Commissioner Pilarski, for raising the issue of the 10 intersections of concern. Tomorrow is Public Safety Awards Day, and last year at this same time, a friend of mine and I were bicycling to the event, and we almost got run over, and you as commissioners did identify these public intersections of concern. I call on city staff, especially Ms. Shandi. It's a year later. There's a lot of mumbling about talking to the other part of the city. She's in the same city hall. She can walk over to transportation and ask questions. What's been happening with those 10 areas of concern? And you could maybe, when you ask your commissioner comments, ask for a report from the Transportation Commission. Or maybe even Ms. Krieger could come in and tell us what's been happening with that. I would like more information a year later, Ms. Shandi. That said, I'm kind of riled up. You know, I'm concerned about a lot of things that happen in our city, not just on my street on Laurel in the center city, but these 2 shootings that have happened on the east side, we're on edge. And especially in my neighborhood, in an apartment where I live, where Commissioner Eng used to live. I walk just 1.5 blocks. I walk down that place where that father and mother and infant were targeted. And I thank Commissioner Eng for bringing up, like a Perry Mason show, the adjective targeted. I heard a report that it's isolated and that it's unrelated, but it sounds targeted. And I think that's the operative word, and it'll be interesting to see arrests made and resolution come to these 2 very recent cases that have people quite alarmed. But these aren't just isolated crimes, and they reflect a larger environment, like Commissioner Pilarski mentioned. They are the legacy of decisions made several years ago to reduce our deputy count by 5. We were told then by figures like former Council Commissioner Nika Shonshung and then Council Member Lindsay Horvath that reimagining safety was fiscally responsible. But for those of us living on Norton and nearby, like I am on Laurel, seeing a father shot at afternoon on a route we walk daily. That fiscal experiment has failed. We are still feeling the harmful effects of those cuts. The tamping down of our law enforcement resources has emboldened criminals to act in broad daylight. I want to know if the department has the current staffing levels to actually clear these cases, or if we are still working from a deficit created by those unfortunate 2022 policy shifts. We just don't need just a report. We need a restoration of the resources that were taken from us. And as commissioners, you can talk about the budget in your individual comments. It doesn't have to be agendized. So thank you for bringing up these points and listening.
Thank you, Victor. Next, we have Stephanie Harker. Stephanie, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. Regarding the recent fights in the Rainbow District, I'm wondering if the sheriffs are allowed to cite unlicensed vendors who are selling alcohol illegally in the Rainbow District. And if perhaps we might ask for maybe even undercover incidents so that the officers in the patrol cars are not having to waste their time with revelers who are taking brawls out into the street, which makes it even more unsafe for the people having a good time because they're brawling, out the saloon doors and to the streets, into the traffic. So I'm wondering if that, you know, it seemed at council that there seemed to be a hands-off policy. I don't know, I certainly don't think it's official, but hands-off on the vendors who, again, it's been witnessed that they do sell alcohol illegally, and they sell it cheaper than the bars do because the bars are charging so much. So I'm wondering if something can be done to that, because it does seem like these fights could be a result of over-serving. And as to the purview of this commission and the Transportation Commission, again, I think we've asked before, and I hope you will all ask. We used to have a joint meeting. I'd like to see those twice a year maybe, because somehow transportation has been separated from safety when half of the issues are regarding transportation. The scooters and the crosswalks, and somehow it should all tie in. We have made, many members of the community have made comments here, and then you have to turn around and go to transportation as well. So it's another going and spending an evening with all of you, which is fine, but a lot of people can't afford that time. And in regard to Commissioner Pilarski, your comments about the crosswalks, I really think that we also need to start educating pedestrians. You cannot be looking down at your phone. You need to be responsible as well. You see the car, until you make eye contact with that driver, you know, it's as much your responsibility not to step into the street as he or she or they are turning either illegally through the crosswalk or maybe legally. But again, I hope that something can be done about this illegal activity going on in Boys Town. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And our final speaker is Steve Martin on this item. Steve, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Steve Martin, East Side of West Hollywood. Thank you, Commissioner Blau, for those actually very informative questions about the flock cameras, because that information should be out at every meeting. We should be marking or publicizing in a more effective way these 10 intersections, and maybe putting kiosk at the 10 intersections with our, whatever we're calling our current security staff, just to educate people. I mean, I do a lot of walking in West Hollywood. I know Todd does. But we're generally not on our phones. I'm not on my phone at all. And you can't assume, well, don't rely on your rights as a pedestrian, because that's a sure way to get hurt. But anyway, I thought your comments, Kelly, were very helpful. In regard to some of what's going on in Boys Town, I think we need to recognize that summer's coming and that the street is kind of a scene. And you guys saw the video of at least one of those fights where somebody was walking a dog. And I think somebody stepped on the dog and whatever. But that guy with the dog was not going into the bars. So him and his friends were probably just hanging out. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's certainly fine. But I think because of what we're facing with the economy, with the Trump slump, and just how expensive it is to go out to West Hollywood, I think a lot of people are coming out just to kind of enjoy the scene. And we really need to understand that this summer might be the summer that we need to make sure that we double up on our law enforcement or whatever alternatives we have, because that's important. Anyway, lastly, briefly, I just want to talk about an issue that has nothing to maybe do with our sheriff here, but has been bothering me for a long time, is the issue of law enforcement using projectile points for crowd control at demonstrations throughout this state and throughout this country. But I think 5 or 6 people in the state of California have lost an eye. And it was just one the other day, and it's just so tragic. And it's really difficult as a person who still goes to demonstrations and wants to be able to feel I can exercise my First Amendment rights freely. I just think that maybe West Hollywood should ask the sheriff, or we should ban them here in West Hollywood, ask the county to ban them. There's really no reason when these people, they're not shooting in the, our friend Hank Scott was shot in the leg back during the George Floyd demonstrations, but now they're aiming at the head. They're aiming at people's faces. That means no training, or they're just being malicious. So I think that we're a progressive city and we care about the First Amendment. So anyway, I'm over my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That is all the public comments.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you. Could I ask staff actually just to make a note about the unlicensed vendors? I know we've talked about this a couple times, so what are we allowed to do?
Sure. So in terms of the unpermitted street vendors, there is state law that has been in place that went into effect in 2019. And essentially that change impacted the way that cities across California could enforce on those that are not complying with whatever regulatory requirements that a city enacts. And so it removed the ability to allow a city to issue notices to appear in court, which is a misdemeanor, it is a criminal offense. And the whole crux of that state law change was to decriminalize the approach taken in our state. So it also prescribes penalties that would apply to unpermitted street vendors, which by state law is an administrative fine. It's a civil fine, and the consequence of not paying for your administrative fine is that would and could potentially impact your credit score at some point, right, as a part of collection efforts, right, if a city is pursuing that. That has proven, in my professional opinion, to create challenges and obstacles, because for unpermitted street vendors that may be subject to an administrative fine, most folks aren't, in my experience, concerned about their credit score being impacted. And so that has created other obstacles as well in terms of law enforcement officers' ability to actually request identification from an unpermitted street vendor, because it is no longer a misdemeanor or criminal offense. There are certain things that deputies and police officers are no longer capable of doing, whereas they were capable of doing that before. And so it is very challenging, not just here in West Hollywood for our code enforcement team that primarily deals with the enforcement of that, but it is a challenge, I can tell you, across the state. You know, our staff does attend annual conferences that involves, you know, code enforcement agencies across the state. That's always a topic of discussion at the conference in terms of what, you know, cities may or may not be trying to do to try to, you know, gain compliance. We have, since the beginning of this year, worked with the sheriff's station on a coordinated approach where we have code enforcement officers that are working on overtime that come out in the later evening, early morning hours and work and pair up with our sheriff's deputies. And so we'll increase the number of sheriff's deputies as well that evening. And they're doing foot patrols in the Rainbow District. And the whole intent of that was, you know, it was outreach and education, right? We had flyers, and essentially we're getting folks to understand that, you know, vending in front of the businesses is creating concerns, not just from a pedestrian access component, but you know, just the ingress and egress as well to some of the businesses. And so we hear the reports. You know, our code enforcement staff is trying to do the best they can along with the sheriff's deputies. But I will say, once those operations conclude, you know, the unpermitted street vendors come right back. They're right back into the same location, in front of the same businesses. And so we did 2 weekends, 2 full weekends, Fridays and Saturdays, 2 weekends in a row in January. We did another 2 weekends in February. No coordinated effort was done in March. And we actually just completed an operation just this past weekend on Friday and Saturday. And so we do have like anywhere from 3 to 4 code enforcement officers. We'll have, you know, maybe upwards of 6 or 7 sheriff's deputies. We also bring in our security ambassadors, and we have a perimeter kind of set. And the goal of this is, again, the education, the outreach, but also to keep the unpermitted vendors from the frontage of the businesses. So the businesses do see it. They do appreciate that. But again, the minute, you know, that team pulls in or takes a break, they're right back out there. And the minute that code enforcement staff, you know, is approaching them, it's extremely rare to have an unpermitted street vendor that just stays idle and stagnant and allows you to make contact. They will evade, they'll start walking away, they'll push their cart. Some of them even run, unfortunately, you know, out into the street. And so nobody's chasing down any unpermitted street vendors. But again, just that the legal guidelines that are set by the state just has made it very difficult to deal with those folks that don't want to go through the process, because we do have a process that would allow somebody to get a street vending business license. We've had it in place for some time now, but we have very few, extremely few folks that take advantage of that. And so you know, we understand, we hear the frustration from the community, but that is essentially what our team, as well as those other communities that have a lot of nightlife establishments and venues. And I'll tell you, because I have been out there multiple times until 4 o'clock in the morning with the teams. So has Lieutenant Turner, so has Sergeant Lovano when we've been out there. You know, we see what the teams are up against. We're speaking with the business owners as well. But and again, in my professional opinion, until there is some changes that occur at the state level in terms of that state legislation that is passed, it's just going to continue to be very, very difficult for us in West Hollywood, as well as any other city, you name it. The city of Santa Monica on the pier and the promenade that have unpermitted street vending. If you ever gone to SoFi Stadium in the city of Inglewood, If you go to Hollywood, which is the city of LA, well, they really don't have a code enforcement team that's out that late, but you have some of these other cities that I mentioned that do. And our code enforcement officers need to be paired up with sheriff's deputies. So we do have one code enforcement officer that works permanently until 4 o'clock in the morning, Thursday through Sunday. And yes, that individual will do their best, working with our entertainment policing team at times, responding to calls, but is also responding to a number of other calls citywide. But the unpermitted street vendors know as well, this person's by themselves. Or they don't have maybe deputies with them. And so, we have to take safety and all of those things into consideration. So I know it's come up multiple times. I've had multiple conversations with community members, but I think, again, it's important to kind of look into the state legislation as it relates to the Safe Street Vendor, Safe Sidewalk Vending Act. And folks can see the slew of information and changes that has even continued beyond since 2019. There was state legislation that actually just went into effect the beginning of this year as it relates to street vending business licensing. So the law continues to evolve at the state level. And so that is, in a nutshell, kind of what the team and what our city is dealing with, but it is not, unfortunately, it's not unique. This is happening across the state of California.
Thank you. Commissioner Ring.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Danny. That was fantastic.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Did you want to repeat it?
I just said thank you to the Director Rivas.
Yeah,
That was a really good explanation, and I hope that gives us a little bit more to think about.
So actually, Director, it just seems that what you're saying then, there's no distinction about what they're selling. In other words, you could sell a hot dog, you could sell alcohol, it's just unlicensed vending. There's no, because I've seen people at Pride selling psilocybin, frankly.
Yeah, so there is a distinction. So when it comes to alcohol, that is different. So somebody selling alcohol without a ABC license approval, et cetera, now that can be addressed in a criminal manner. So you just need to be very careful in terms of the approach of how you're interacting and dealing with those types of individuals that are doing that. But primarily what our code enforcement team, our sheriff's deputies as well, have observed, and even at times we do coordinate with ABC, Alcohol Beverage Control at the state level. They do have agents that do come out here to West Hollywood and do plainclothes operations as well. We really have not seen the alcohol sales. I'm not saying that doesn't happen from time to time. What you do see is the unpermitted hot dog vending, which does fall into that category of street vending, right? But if somebody's got a cooler and they're serving alcohol, then that is definitely something that can be addressed by law enforcement under the Business and Professions Code. So there is something there that does allow us the ability to address it. We did have one report several months ago in terms of an individual that was selling alcohol that was known to businesses. That individual was cited. It was addressed. And that person has no longer been coming to the city for several months. I have not heard from any of the businesses, and believe me, the businesses are in direct contact with myself and our code enforcement team as well as our sheriff station, and they would let us know, hey, this person's back, or hey, we're seeing somebody else that's over here. And even with our deputies, again, with our entertainment policing team, our code enforcement team, they haven't seen that type of activity. Again, I'm not saying that it's not happening, because people aren't everywhere in that area, but I know at least that one report that was brought up a couple of times, that individual was addressed with, and we have not seen that person any longer.
Thank you very much, Director Rivas, for that. And thank you very much, Lieutenant Turner. Have a good night. I'm sorry, you have a question? Sorry, one more, Commissioner Winnick.
I do have a question. I understand that we can't cite people for doing unlicensed vending necessarily, but I know, for example, that one of the store owners was complaining that the hot dog vendor just dumps their detritus at the end of the evening into the plants that are right outside the business, and it smells disgusting. And I mean, there are also laws against littering. There are laws against polluting. So perhaps instead of going after people for unlicensed vending, look at the ancillary conduct and figure out if there's a way to cite them for the ancillary nuisance or trash or whatever they're doing that is the real problem, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, and our team would absolutely do that. And so, but like in those instances, the officer needs to observe that occurring at the time, right? And so you need to have a way to be able to make contact, right? And now that's a different type of municipal code, a violation, and even penal code and state laws, right, that regulate that. So yes, Commissioner Wick, we would have the ability to address that, and that has been brought to our attention and reported. But again, we would have to observe that at the time and be able to address that with that particular individual. It couldn't be like an after the fact, like, hey, I seen that person doing that type thing, and in most instances that's the case, you know. And so staff will go and make contact. I mean, we've had that where somebody say, hey, this is a regular, this person's here every weekend, right? And they'll take a photo of that person. And so staff will go and make contact and educate them and say, hey, just so you know, this has been brought to our attention. We're just letting you know that, you know, if we observe this activity, we would have to address that. And this isn't something, of course, that falls under the, you know, Safe Sidewalk Vending Act. Because I will tell you, a lot of the unpermitted street vendors are very well versed when it comes to state law. And they will video our code enforcement officers, they will video our sheriff's deputies all the time. And they do have other individuals that they're working with that will intervene and will start, you know, just really trying to agitate the situation and trying to get a reaction and trying to capture that. So again, I'm just telling you, just, you know, just firsthand, seeing it, seeing what the officers and the deputies go through as it relates to that. And so we understand and we hear it, and the best that we can respond to is that we'll continue to coordinate those, you know, foot patrols and be more present as much as we can.
Commissioners, any other questions? Okay, I think you're free to go for the third time. And the next item we have up is the Public Safety Commission will review a sample work plan for the commission and provide input.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Commission. Per your request and direction, staff is presenting a look-ahead work plan for the Commission's consideration. The plan is intended to serve as a forward-looking guide for upcoming topics and discussions. This is a fluid document. It may evolve over time based on emerging needs, available resources, and coordination with other departments and partner organizations involved in many of these efforts. The goal of these items listed in the look ahead is to give the community an opportunity to hear and learn more about these public safety related items, and to allow the Commission the opportunity to receive and file these items or provide feedback and input as they are presented. We welcome your suggestions. If there are items you believe should be added, removed, or adjusted, so long as they align with the purview of the Public Safety Commission, we are open to that direction. This is the first presentation of what we consider a working draft. We fully expect that it will continue to be refined. We encourage ongoing feedback, not just tonight, but throughout the coming months and future meetings. This is not the only opportunity for input. It is the start of an ongoing process. With that, we are happy to walk through the proposed look-ahead schedule and answer any questions or receive your input and feedback. So on your monitor, you will see kind of, a draft of the look-ahead by quarter. So in the first quarter coming up, Again, we're reviewing our look-ahead schedule. Like Danny mentioned, next month will be the drone policy that will come forward to the commission. We have WeHo Pride that we will be talking about, CPR AED training, CERT training, and alumni CERT training, a presentation from the UCLA Rape Treatment Center. In the following quarter, we're looking at presenting the city's emergency response plan that is being updated, having Human Services provide a presentation of their resources, which could include the care team and Healthcare in Action coming to the commission. National Night Out will be a topic. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department will have a detective from the Hate Crimes Bureau come and share information with the commission, and of course, Halloween. The following quarter, we will touch on the Neighborhood Watch and Resident Association groups and the activity that is taking place with those groups. We will bring a presentation regarding the neighborhood resilience teams. Holiday safety will be a topic during that quarter. From the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, we will have the Special Victims Bureau come do a presentation to the commission, and we will also be talking about active shooter training available to the community during this time. Following quarter, we will have our commission liaison selections. In February of 2027 is when the commission terms are up, so if there's any changes, we will touch base on liaison selections and if anybody needs to make any changes or selections. And then the city's official app is something we want to continually have discussions about, get feedback on, if it's user friendly, if there's issues, anything that we can improve on that side. April is Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, so we do have those outreach opportunities. Thank you for some of the commission members that did partake in that outreach just this month. And then Vision Zero update will be included in that quarter, along with our Public Safety Awards, luncheon, and ceremony. And then following that quarter, again, we will do kind of circle back to where we are, it's like the full year circle. So again, this is not something, we know you're seeing this for the first time, and again, our apologies for not uploading it sooner. As you can see, a lot of these items require assistance and presence from other agencies and other departments. So in order to put this plan together, we did have to collaborate on a lot of these items to ensure that their availability and their resources on how we can map out the timing. So there was a lot of back and forth that we just had to work out. So again, a lot of these items may move here and there depending on things that are happening. Again, we have to rely on these organizations, so sometimes things do come up, but we will share that with you in advance so that you're aware of it. So please take this in. You do not have to provide 100% of your feedback tonight. You can look it over. We can touch on it continuously at the commission meetings if there's things that you want to see. We also have in mind, it should be an asterisk on the bottom, but the joint commission meeting, that is on our radar as well. But because we don't have like the perfect date, we know our city clerk's office is actively working on it. It is a topic that is currently in the works. We just don't know exactly where it's going to fit in. It's just going to depend on scheduling availability. We definitely have that on our radar to plug into this plan as well. So
that's the JETS, Joint Transportation.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
yes. So that is definitely on the radar as well. We just didn't want to presume where it would fall, but it is definitely in the works to be scheduled.
Just a question. The drone policy, we're not voting again on the drone policy. We voted for that. Is it just it's simply review and file?
Yeah, just to review and provide your input if there's anything. The Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department did approve this policy. So we just would like to see it, to review it, and to provide your input.
Okay, great. Commissioner Winnick? No. Vice Chair Blau.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita, for putting this together. I really appreciate it. One thing that just jumps out to me, actually, is if possible, I think it would be beneficial if it was possible to bring forward the Hate Crimes Bureau one and reach out to the sheriff on that. What I'm thinking is June coming up, Pride Month, the city of West Hollywood, especially in the current political climate, is a beacon, both in a positive and a negative way. And I think having some education on what qualifies as a hate crime, so that the community can be aware of that going into maybe an area and time of greater sensitivity and exposure would be beneficial. I know that that doesn't leave us with, honestly, a lot of time now, but food for thought.
Yeah, we will definitely look at the possibility of shifting some of those priorities and getting that in sooner if the Sheriff's Department is available.
Thank you.
Add a quick thing on that as well. I think June is also the time that the state AG normally puts out their hate crime reports specifically around LGBTQ hate crimes, and so maybe it's more like July, so that we could have that data included.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for putting this together. This is a really great, transparent way for all of us to, as a commission and also the public to take a look at what we're talking about here. So I'm really happy with this. As we go forward, I appreciate that you said that we can look at this every commission meeting, because I think that's what makes it most helpful. If maybe we could put a little asterisk or star next to the things that might come onto the agenda versus things that are just awareness items for the month. So if it's a talking point that we will see, maybe we could put a little asterisk to it. But I totally understand that this is fluid, so maybe it's just like the next commission meeting, we star what we're going to be talking about the following month. I had a question about the emergency response plan that you have on here. So is that intended to be is that something that's coming to council first and then coming to this commission? Is it coming to this commission and then going to council?
Our goal, again, it's never perfect, but our goal is to bring it. We always try to bring any public safety item to the commission first if time allows, to give us an opportunity to get the feedback and then take it to council. That is our intent with this one as well.
Okay.
But again, we just to share, sometimes we have deadlines on when we have to submit reports to meet a city council deadline meeting. So sometimes we're not able to squeeze that all in, but that is our absolute intent is to bring the emergency response plan here first.
Okay, great. And we'll get a copy of this to our emails and we can print it out
Yes.
and then send you an email with comments and questions.
Yeah, we'll share it with you in advance, so that way when the item is on the agenda, you'll be able to have already reviewed it and share your questions, your comments, your feedback, anything that you would like to share at that meeting. We'll make sure you have the report in advance of that.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Post?
Yeah, just two quick items I think that could be added to this list. One of which I think is would be great from the sheriff's office would be maybe a presentation on just the booking process. I know I've heard a lot of stories from folks, especially transgender identifying individuals, about maybe not receiving culturally competent responses, or again, even for folks that were cited, like the homeless individual John earlier, just having a better understanding for our community to know what goes into that booking process, why would somebody get released, things like that, I think could be a good addition, and no rush or timing on that in particular that I have. And then the other one was one that we voted on, I think a meeting or two ago, which was the idea that none of our vendors should be able to be affiliated or have an ICE or DHS contract. I don't know if that is something that the council level is working on, but I would love to see that item come back to us if it's not already in the process.
So that item, after our Public Safety Commission meeting where that was brought forward, we immediately did take that to our city clerk, and then the city clerk shares that with the city council subcommittee. So that has already happened.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments from the public?
No public comments.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to items from staff. Any community safety updates?
Thank you. Please join us tomorrow for the annual Public Safety Awards ceremony here at Council Chambers as we recognize members of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, security ambassadors, and our Neighborhood and Business Safety Division. On April 18th, the American Red Cross held shelter training for Area A CERT members. It was a full day of hands-on training and collaboration with our neighboring cities in showing CERT alumni how valuable they can be with their assistance in the activation of an evacuation shelter in our city. As part of the city's ongoing enhanced emergency preparedness efforts that have been underway, we would like to inform you that a full-scale emergency response exercise will take place in the city on Wednesday, April 29th. The exercise will involve a coordinated response with a visible and elevated presence of law enforcement and fire department personnel. Traffic impacts in the immediate area are expected to be minimal. The purpose of this exercise is to provide the City of West Hollywood Sheriff's Station and the West Hollywood Fire Stations with an opportunity to respond to a simulated incident in real time, while also allowing city staff to practice our internal response protocols under realistic conditions. In response to recent public comment regarding the display of reports during meetings, we want to share a few updates on how materials are made available. Printed copies of the full agenda packet will be available upon request for attendees at the meeting. In addition, a QR code is always posted in the lobby, which provides immediate access to the full agenda packet and all attachments. At this time, displaying the full reports on screen is not feasible, as many of the attachments are multiple pages and are not intended to be viewed as a presentation. Lastly, I will pass it over to Danny Rivas to share additional updates.
Great, thank you, Anita. Well, good evening, Chair and members of the Public Safety Commission. Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety. I did want to provide two updates, and so I'll start with the short one first. So in addition to the June 15th City Council meeting, where we plan on bringing the item related to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department drone policy, on that same date, we will also be bringing back the item regarding the flock camera policy recommendations and potential policy changes here at the city following the last city council meeting, not the last one, but where we had that discussion last with the city council. So direction was for staff to return back within 90 days, and so that will be that 90-day mark, and so that will be again on June 15th of this year. And then separately, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we'll certainly be bringing the drone policy item. So you'll have those two items slated for that city council agenda. And then in addition to that, we will be bringing forth a proposed agreement with a selected vendor for the community safety officer program. So a number of public safety items will be on that agenda, and so wanted to give the commission, the community, of course, advance notice regarding those items, because I know our May 18th agenda, the meeting prior, we will be having a discussion with the city council regarding the budget, the city's budget, and so that meeting will be dedicated and sort of a study session as it relates to the city's overall budget, and so you will not see as many items as you typically see on city council agendas, so that there'll be adequate time for the community, for the council, right, and for staff to kind of go through thoroughly the budget and the budgetary recommendations that are being brought forward. So, so June 15th, as I mentioned, is the date that we plan on bringing all of those items. And then the second item that I wanted to just provide some information on is, you know, we've heard several requests and comments both from the commission as well as from community members surrounding, you know, our mobility scooters, the e-scooters, you know, the Lime scooters specifically that we currently, the city has an agreement with to operate in the city. And so we certainly hear, you know, reports, right, about the scooters being placed out in the sidewalk areas, impeding pedestrians, et cetera. And so we wanted to take just a quick moment to kind of go over some of that information. Please know that the mobility devices are under the purview of the Transportation and Mobility Division on the city staff side. They're the ones that manage the contract and the agreement that is in place with Lime. There is a dedicated webpage that folks can go to. If they type into the City of West Hollywood website in the search engine in the query, and you just type in mobility devices, it'll take you to this page. If there are concerns or issues, I know we had a comment made earlier in terms of, hey, take advantage of the city's official app, right? And so we want to emphasize that, because that is the best method and the best way of communicating to the operator, as well as allowing our Transportation and Mobility Commission, sorry, not commission, division, city staff to reference the date and time, right, that a report was submitted, because they do cross-reference that, they do track that. And the reason being is if the operator, if Lime does not respond to a service request within a certain period of time, there is progressive penalties that are applied for each and every single one of those occurrences. So it isn't a citation, so it isn't that code enforcement officer or somebody's actually writing a fine or a ticket for that, but they review this data regularly, and then when it comes to the month, they are actually penalized this fee as a part of the agreement. And so on the website that I'm mentioning, there is also a copy of the program agreement. And so anybody can access this. As I mentioned, it's on the city's website. But on the agreement, just for the purposes of some context as it relates to the penalties, because I know that has come up, if the operator does not respond within an hour, there is, and it gives between the hours of 6 a.m. and 11:59 p.m., there is a $75 per service request fee that is applied there. If they do not respond within 2 hours, then that increases, it doubles to $150. If they don't respond within 3 hours, then that goes to $300. Now, if there is an ADA issue, which I know is commented about quite frequently. So let's say a scooter is placed, along the sidewalk, and it's just directly impeding and blocking that stretch of sidewalk. We do have some sidewalks that are wider than others, but let's just say it's covering and impeding completely, and it's obstructing that, and that is reported. Those fines are higher than the ones I just mentioned. So for the first violation, it's $450. For the second violation, it is $1,000. And for every other violation thereafter, it's $1,500 penalty fee. But again, that isn't something that a code enforcement officer, so as a community member or anyone is submitting through the city's official app, or if they're emailing, which they can do, there is a distribution email. It's scooter@weho.org that folks can also email on. That information, again, is on the website. Then that goes to the operator, and then there is a Transportation and Mobility Division staff member that's also copied on that, so they do see that. And then, again, they're the ones that tabulate, right, what those penalties, what those occurrences are. The operator is responsible, so they do have access to the app. And so I know Anita kind of touched on it. Somebody submits that goes to the operator, and then the clock starts ticking, right? And then they need to go out there, respond to that within the timeframes that I mentioned, and then they take a photograph, date and time stamped. They can attach that to the service request as well. I don't know the ins and outs in terms of whether that's visible to whoever reported it. In many instances, it typically isn't, and I'm just talking about code enforcement operations and other operations. But it can be an internal note, right, that obviously city staff know, okay, this was uploaded. I'm seeing a picture that's taken from that angle of what somebody submitted. They maybe took a picture of it, which you can do on the official app from your phone, of the place, right? Provide the location of it, and then that gets sent off, right? And then that would get closed out. And so that is the process as it relates to the only sole operator that we currently have, which is Lime right now. Now, if we do have other operators or other companies that at times come in, and you'll see devices that are left in the city, and so they will also report that. The Transportation and Mobility Division does have a contract. I don't know whether that's still active or not, but there was a contract with a separate company that was responsible for removing those devices from the public right-of-way. So it is not something that city code enforcement staff go out and respond to. It is something, though, I will say, when I came on board here in West Hollywood in 2019, our code enforcement team did address all scooters because the scooters were prohibited at that time. You know, there were challenges as it relates to that, you know, impounding those scooters, storage, applying the penalties, et cetera, going through the citation process. But since the city enacted their pilot program and then entered into these agreements over the years, the last couple of years, that has transitioned out. And so our code enforcement team, again, does not respond and do any sort of enforcement action with anything as it relates to you know, the current operator or even an outside operator. But they will assist at times. If they're seeing a new company, they'll try to track down, look up the company, try to reach out to that company and saying, hey, while notifying the Transportation and Mobility Division staff, hey, listen, you know, we're seeing your devices here in the public right-of-way. You're not allowed to operate in the city. Just know that, you know, we could impound, we could address A, B, and C, right, in terms of what I just described. And most of the time, you'll get companies that will cooperate, you know, will claim that they're unaware, and then they'll send somebody out there, right, to retrieve those devices. But sometimes you may not experience that, right? You may have a situation where maybe somebody isn't coming out there, and so those discussions will be had internally in terms of who's removing, you know, the device and how we're going about kind of that process. So we do plan on sending the commission an email with information, just providing a link to the dedicated webpage, outlining some of the penalty fee structures and things, a link to the program agreement as well, and just making it shorter, because I know there is a lot of information on that dedicated webpage. But please, you know, pass that on to community members. And that concludes kind of the short request and open any questions.
Thank you, Danny. That's super helpful, and I think it's important to know about the penalty. And I'm curious, do you have any figures on what we collected last year?
I don't. I know.
Or if you don't, how would we get that information?
Yeah, so we can request it from the Transportation and Mobility Commission, and we're happy to share that via email. You know, and I know that is something that, you know, definitely I don't know if it is being reported to the Transportation Mobility Commission, but I know they were updating information on their webpage at some point, and so what we can ask and see kind of what, you know, what that looks like.
I think that's a very large fee. Those fees are pretty high. If you think about the cost of riding a scooter, even at $75, the baseline, that's a pretty high fee. And I personally am a big fan of the email, which I've been using frequently, rather than just, you know, complaining from up here. So I've been sending photos when these scooters are, I mean, I probably, at least myself, have gotten them $300 worth of billing. I don't know. But I think that it's really important for people to know that they have this option. You know, take advantage of it from the app or send the email, because I think that will get the attention of these providers and possibly lead us to a place where, you know, there is more permanent docking stations and, you know, real incentives for people to put the scooters in those versus laying them on the streets. Commissioner Holman?
Thank you, Chair. Director Rivas, I have a question in regards to the scooter situation and the information you just gave us. So I have a clear understanding. Scooter at WehoTV.org. Can we upload images of scooters to that? Is that what you're saying? Like scooters that are in the pedestrian right-of-way when we make the complaint?
Yeah, I would suggest, because the scooters at WehoTV.org is the email. It's a general email that was created, a distribution email. So you could attach a photo to the email, but I would recommend on downloading the city's official app if you don't have it, because once you've downloaded that and you have that on your phone, you can take the photo, right, in the moment, in real time, of the scooter, provide the location, and that will be attached to your service request. And when you submit it, the receiving end will see that, right? And that's documented, and that's there. So just look at it as kind of that database, you know, and you'll be notified as well. You could even put whether or not you want to be contacted in follow-up, and somebody should be contacting you. And if you're not, you know, wanting to be contacted, or you don't put anything as it relates to that, or maybe you don't feel comfortable putting your contact information, you don't have to as well. You can submit anonymously, and it will still go through and kind of go through the process. And then you will be notified, like if there's any communication or when the request is closed out and it's fulfilled, you will receive a notification, kind of templated response as it relates to that.
Okay, understood. So if we go through that process, but then move the scooter out of the way, are the penalties still the same for the organization? For example, I was walking one morning on Fountain. There was a scooter in the middle of the sidewalk. Coming toward me was a resident pushing a stroller. If I had not moved that scooter, her only option would have been to walk in the street. So if I take a photo, but then move the scooter to the side so it's not blocking the sidewalk, is the organization still penalized, or what is that process if we move a scooter?
Yeah, I mean, that is a nuance. I don't know. That's a great question. You know, and I would suggest maybe writing that in the service request, because you can describe, you can put notes, right, in terms of what your issue is, or what the report is. So I would mention that. I taking a photograph of this out here, but yeah, I don't know how they've been applying their approach as it relates to that.
Okay, because I think it's great, this program, but sometimes waiting for them to come out and move the scooter can hinder an individual who's trying to use the sidewalk, who possibly may not be able to move the scooter themselves. So I'm hoping that the same policies will apply if someone does do the report and remove a scooter.
Yeah, so I'll ask, we'll ask and reach out to the Transportation and Mobility Division. I don't know if they've provided maybe a staff report to the City Council. I know they have before in the past. I mean, as I'm looking at the website, it looks like, you know, the agreement went in place in April of 2024. That's what's reflected on their webpage. So, you know, I'll ask and see like what updates that they provided in terms of you know, statistical information.
Yeah, because I know one morning on my walk, I moved 9 scooters and 1 bike, all in one morning. So it would be great if maybe that could be clarified somehow.
Yeah, we'll ask, like I mentioned, and yeah, we'll make note of that, and we'll see what information they provide back, and then we'll send that in the email. So maybe we'll wait in following up with the commission on what I've mentioned, and I'll wait and get some information and some responses back. That way, it's all in one email, and because I understand you have constituents and, you know, that are reaching out, and residents that are reaching out to you all about this, and so we want to provide you all with as much information as possible to kind of point them in the right direction.
Thank you.
Well, we should write Commissioner Holman a check. That's a lot of scooters and bikes for one day. I also wonder if we might be able to leverage our allied security ambassadors with it. They're moving 400 plus a month. Is that not something that they could photograph? We could have records that we could share. I mean, to me, they're moving them obviously for the reasons that Commissioner Holman just stated, out of concern and people's safety, but is there a way that they could document them to become almost legitimize this issue more? Where if they're seeing 400 a month that they're moving, if they photographed all 400 of those, knowing that they were moved, I just think maybe that we should think about, maybe it's this future conversation for the next round of this agreement that we have, but that to me could incentivize them further.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll have a conversation with the team and see, because to your point, I mean, if they're there and they're moving, moving the scooter, having the city's official app, downloading that, taking a picture and submitting it. So, we can definitely chat and see what they're doing now. I know that was something that we worked into the agreement with Allied when we were going through the change, right, in vendors, was to add that component, as they're coming across that, as they're doing their foot patrols, to relocate. It's not a primary function. That's not something that I want them to primarily focus on, but if they are coming across that and spending the time in terms of doing that, that's a conversation that we can have. But as it relates to the agreement specifically in that item, again, that's something that the Transportation and Mobility Division leads, and that they're handling. I mean, it's not something that we would be placing on the Public Safety Commission agenda, but I wanted to at least share, because again, I know there's been several requests from the commission. We've heard the public comments as well, and so I think it's important for us to kind of provide as much information as we certainly can, and again, arm the commissioners with this information. So when folks do reach out, it's kind of like, hey, who do you go to? How do you report? What's the information? So we'll make the request to the division. I am sensitive to their ongoing work plan, and I certainly don't want to be making requests asking them to do things more than maybe they're not already doing, but I'm assuming, I don't know, I don't want to speculate, but hopefully they'll have this information on hand, and whatever they supply us, we'll make sure to communicate that back to the commission via email.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a mechanism built into the contract for financially, for penalties. So we then hire Allied, and part of their job is to clear these, so it seems to work against itself in some way. So thank you for at least bringing it up, or maybe it's something we discuss in our joint commission meeting, Commissioner to Commissioner. Commissioner Post.
Yes, changing tune a little bit. I appreciated the update on the vendors again. Is there a cost for those permits currently for those vendors to be coming into compliance and have a vendor permit with the city?
There is, yeah. And so just like any of our street vending business licenses, or any of our business license, with the exception of cannabis, it's a $300 annual fee initially, and then every year thereafter, as long as they're maintaining all their requirements of the license, it's $200.
I appreciate that information. I know that this, as you said, is not an issue just for West Hollywood. In my day job, I deal with this in one of my bids as well. And one of the things we're looking at is trying to use the carrot instead of the stick, especially if the stick has been taken away from us from the state level. And so I think currently in the city of LA, they're not charging for their vendor permits and trying to kind of invite that compliance in. So I know that it sounds like they're a little bit organized as well, and there's other folks that are always managing some of those vendors. And so maybe we can get a better rapport with those folks that are coordinating all of those vendors and try to encourage that in compliance rather than necessarily enforce it, especially if our mechanisms aren't there.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to commissioner comments. Public first. Public comments. Do we have any?
Yes, we do have one public comment. Kyle Brazil, if you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Kyle Brazil, resident of West Hollywood. There are a few items I wanted to talk about tonight. First, I have to, based on the discussion of vendors, I really have to push back. I appreciate Director Rivas's take that the state has tied our hands in some ways. Perhaps they have removed tools on enforcement, but they have not prevented us from doing something about this. I fear that this is more so a read into our city council's appetite to address this than it is our ability to address it. In the October 2025 council meeting, Councilmember Erickson acknowledged because of his employer, he was uncomfortable moving forward on this. I think there was a clear lack of appetite to address this. So again, I think I've got to challenge that notion that we can't do anything about this. I would echo Commissioner Winnick's comments that there are ways that the city can get creative in whether that's creating a new ordinance or enforcing existing laws. There are ways to get around this without just issuing citations because of illegal unpermitted vendors. So again, I also worry about the idea that we should just continue doing what we're doing, having code enforcement walk the streets. It's basically yielding the same results as doing nothing. And I get it that it's uncomfortable to admit that we're doing nothing, but when you're getting the same results, I just wonder why we're wasting efforts and resources from our departments to yield the same results. So again, I think this does need to be made a priority. I think we as a city need to be creative about it. I would support Commissioner Post's idea of reducing fees, but I worry that without a stick, there's going to be little compliance with that anyway. So this is something that we can address, and I think we need to. Another item, we talked a little bit about feeling safe in West Hollywood. I would say having lived in downtown LA, I feel safer in West Hollywood. Having lived in Hollywood, I feel safer in West Hollywood. But without leaving my own building, our mailboxes have been burglarized 4 times. Our garage has been burglarized once. Without leaving the street, we had a gun-related incident at the north end of Kings Road, and at the south end, we had an individual robbed at gunpoint. So do I feel safe in West Hollywood? I certainly feel safer than other parts of LA County, but there's more to be done. And when I hear members of our law enforcement talk about hitting minimum ratios, I worry that we're not doing enough to address those trends. The only thing I know about the crime statistics is that that is a floor. We are not documenting every crime in West Hollywood. We are documenting what has been captured in data. So I worry that we're not getting ahead of this trend in crime and that we're not doing enough to support law enforcement, whether through ensuring we're staffed appropriately or supporting technology to improve efficacy of them doing their jobs. And the final point I'd want to make is just, I think the City Council in its most recent meeting talked about potentially sending a letter to the DA for Anthony Vulin. I would encourage members of this commission to reach out to those who appointed you and support that action. And if for some reason the City Council can't do that, I would encourage this commission to explore that, because I think our criminal justice system provides avenues to correct for justice, and I think Anthony Vulin's case is one where that correction is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. That is all for the public comments.
Thank you. Moving on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of comments. I think we all received the same email from staff about the recent dog incident in the park. Director Rivas, who oversees or manages our dog parks in West Hollywood Park? Because I know they're a great thing, and a lot of people do come into the city to utilize our dog parks as well as our playground for the kids, but there needs to be some safety mechanisms. So is that code? Is that allied? Has this been addressed?
Yeah, so in terms of who manages it, from a maintenance perspective, right, that would fall under Public Works and Facilities and Field Services. But from like an enforcement, and I think that's what you're asking.
Correct.
Yeah. So that ordinance requirement, I would have to look into it. I know it was modified maybe about a year, maybe 2 years ago, to kind of mirror what Los Angeles County has adopted in their municipal code. So I would have to really kind of take a look at it. My understanding, I don't know other jurisdictions that are maybe enforcing, smaller versus larger dogs, like in their access to those different areas, because that's certainly not something unique to West Hollywood, right? You'll see that in a lot of different communities where they'll have sign postage, kind of weight requirements of what is considered to be a larger dog versus a smaller dog. But I'm not aware of any jurisdiction that has like code enforcement or animal control officers that are there posted at those, facilities, determining that. So I would have to circle back and see, if there's any sort of penalty or anything as it relates to that. But I'm not aware of there being any.
Okay, that would be great. I would appreciate that. Also, in regards to said alcohol vendor that used to be out at night, because I'm in the Rainbow District most Fridays and Saturday nights, I did see that individual frequently, and I have not seen that individual in quite some time. So thank you for that. I do want to circle back to the question I asked about our new crossing policies at Santa Monica and San Vicente with the no turn on the right arrows and how it's a four-way walk all at once. I believe Commissioner Pilarski mentioned something about maybe crossing guards. It's kind of chaos in the Rainbow District on Friday and Saturday nights. Vehicles don't know what to do because this is new. Pedestrians don't know what to do. And with Pride, and as we get into summer, there's got to be a way we can correct this so it's safer for all, because it doesn't make sense to do a four-way walk when it's not safe. So is there something we can do here? Is this transportation? Can we bring in crossing guards just so until people get into a rhythm?
So we will definitely follow up with Public Works, on any updates. I know they had mentioned that their monitoring is going to be ongoing, and they're assessing that. And so if the traffic engineers make a determination that they need to make adjustments to that, then we will, of course, as a city, follow that lead. But yeah, we'll follow up with them again and ask if there's any additional information that they could share, and if there is, then we certainly will pass that on via email to the commission. As it relates to crossing guards, that is not a request that that we would fulfill in community safety. I mean, we don't manage the crossing guards. That is something currently that's applied to the schools, and we have very few of them here in West Hollywood, but there are crossing guards that are assigned to those schools, and that's managed through our Human Services Department, and so we can certainly pass that information on as well, related to the comments that were made today.
I mean, it would be great because I stand on the corner and I watch, and it concerns me. So I think it would behoove us to try to get ahead of this situation, especially as we get into summer, because again, it makes no sense to implement this policy if there's no way for it to work properly for all individuals involved, which would be pedestrians and vehicles. Also, it does concern me. I know we're trying to do things to help the Rainbow District to improve business. And the Mimo Mimosa event was great that the city sponsored. That was a great event to bring business in. But we have this ongoing problem, and I know it's a sensitive situation with our unhoused individuals. I understand what we can and what we cannot do, but is there a way to try to get the CARES team deployed in that area during certain areas to help mitigate this issue because we want everyone to come out and have a great time in the city. We're promoting these events and activations. But if there's an element where people don't feel safe, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't want to speak for the Human Services Department or the CARE team or Healthcare in Action, which are the two providers that the city contracts with, and our Human Services Department manages those contracts. But what I will share is just being part of the discussion that, you know, my understanding is the CARE team and Healthcare in Action, those outreach street teams are out citywide. They do concentrate and focus on areas, and they do offer services, trying to connect folks right to housing and other programs, and also provide you know, kind of a basic low-level type of medical attention to folks. So you know, we can't answer in terms of, you know, why somebody is not accepting services versus somebody who maybe at some point is willing to. So, you know, I know our allied security ambassadors, our sheriff's deputies do make those requests, do make those calls to the CARE team and Healthcare in Action. But my understanding as well is that CARE team and Healthcare in Action also do proactive outreach as well, and are responsible for getting out there and you know, connecting with somebody new that they've never met with before, and then following up with folks that they do have in their database, right, in terms of just touching base and doing that on a frequent basis. So you know, I hear you, Commissioner Hallman, and you know,
it's just an ongoing problem, and I would just love for us to be better at trying to help all individuals that are involved, and that includes the unhoused individuals. Thank you.
Commissioner Post.
Yes, thank you for answering all the questions tonight. A few comments and maybe a question or two. I also wanted to just give my support to all the victims of recent violence, whether it was the shooting victims, street fight folks that might have gotten injured in the street fighting, but especially to our community members, Anthony Vulin and family, for being antagonized and pushed. I think it was really sad to hear about his situation, and I can't imagine what it would be like to have a baby in my arms during that time. So I definitely agree, and I think the council should support the letter to drop those charges to the DA, and hope to see that go through. I do think we should be working to reduce this violence in the city overall. I don't know, and I wanted to ask staff if there's been anything recently around gun violence specifically. I think last year, Councilmember Hang and Erickson brought forward a regulation that kind of strengthened the distance that firearms could be sold, even though I think the city doesn't have any gun shops currently, but I think there should be something that the city is doing just to push back against gun violence generally. And even Steve Martin's comment tonight on the use of less lethals. I think that's a prime example of how we could be a city pushing forward how that violence shouldn't be used against the public, even in those disruptions. And so I think that is definitely something, if the rest of the commission is amicable, maybe we can bring back at a future time to discuss further. I've seen how we've been able to change sheriff policy through our current drone and technology package. And I think there are other avenues like less lethals that the city could be pushing to be making those changes at the county level as well. And then the last two comments I have, one, I just wanted to share again, I don't think I saw the Public Safety Commission meeting minutes in either of the council agendas under the commission recap, so I just wanted to check back in on that. Maybe I did miss it, but I hadn't seen them again, and I know I had raised that last issue. And then lastly, I kind of building off the piece around Nixle, I know that there was, it's confusing during shootings and things like that, but I think public communication during those times is so crucial. And so I think as much as the city can be in coordination with the sheriff and with Nixle and putting that information out there, the sooner the better. I just had heard some comments from community members that they would have liked to see even a statement like the one that was made a little bit sooner. So I know you all are always doing the best with the information that you have on hand, but continue to appreciate all of that work and hope we can quicken those times. But that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pilarski.
Did you want to say something, Anita?
Thank you. Just to touch quickly on the comment that Commissioner Post made about the synopsis. So just to share what we do when we conclude the commission meeting. One is we immediately send a synopsis directly to City Council, so they get an immediate synopsis after that, and then the meeting minutes, of course, are published on the website. And starting last month's meeting, we did start sending an additional synopsis to the City Council, so that will now be on the to our city clerk, which then publishes it as part of the City Council agenda. Different commissions and boards have meetings at different times, so you'll see them at various times. So you might not see it exactly like immediately, maybe the week after, but we are now actively submitting our synopsis to the city clerk's office. So you will now start kind of seeing it in a cycle on that agenda.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So my commissioner comments today are focused around the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'm wearing my denim blazer here for Denim Day on April 29th. And something that I want to talk about specifically is this kind of like culture that I don't like to see and it doesn't feel good to have, which is be a better victim kind of mentality. So, it comes out of, oh, well, you were in the lane with your bike, so you should be harassed by a vehicle, or you were wearing a skirt, so you should be harassed by somebody inappropriately, or, you were crossing the street, so you should expect somebody to hit you with a car. Why didn't you make that report? You should report that. You should report more. I want to get away from that culture. We really need to expect people to follow the rules sometimes. And I don't want to be victim shaming anybody in this city. So when it comes to sexual assault awareness, we should not be doing that at all. And also when it comes to any violence that's happening in the city, we need to be very conscious about what's, the quote unquote norm for the city. So that is something I wanted to speak directly to my commissioners about, and then also to whomever's watching. Very excited to hear about the full-scale drill that the city is doing. I know that's something that we talked about for the after-action report from the fire report, and I geek out on that kind of stuff, so thanks for highlighting that. And just something exciting in my professional work that I think everyone here is also excited about is that the Section 1 of the D-Line extension is opening on May 8th, and that will be 3 new stations, Wilshire La Brea, Wilshire Fairfax, and Wilshire La Cienega. So that's adding a lot of connectivity to West Hollywood down at Wilshire. So I'm hoping to see some of the bike lanes on those streets get a lot more use with some transportation alternatives and some opportunities opening up, especially with Bike Month coming up here in May. If there is an opportunity for you to try a different type of commuting and you've not felt safe doing it before, this is a really nice way to just try it with some support from the City of West Hollywood. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pilarski. Commissioner Eng.
Thank you, and thank you for the statement about be a better victim. I actually think it's a really great statement to make because it's just true, and the idea that we should be putting some of the blame on the people that are perpetrating makes a lot of sense. I want to ask who our older adult liaison is here Yeah. Can you make them aware about the fire increase? Well, I'm sure they get it. I think it is worth noting that we're starting to see the aging of the population in the city and where that's going to lead. So I do think that's worth mentioning, if you don't mind. And then in regard to the support for Anthony and David Vulin, I do think that most of us felt like it was an attack on the city and what we stand for. So I do feel that for the city to make the statement to the DA that we don't want to allow this is a very strong statement to make. And then lastly, I want to make a comment sort of to tie a lot together of some different things that I've heard this evening. I'm going to try to make it quick. Something that I really notice in day-to-day life or in just my lifetime is that the police generally do not prevent crime. They react to it. And how I know that is that if I call the sheriffs and say, I think someone's going to do something, they're not going to come. But something I feel super grateful for is to have the safety layers that we have. And again, in saying that you feel safe, I generally do as well. I can call the security ambassadors to say, I think someone's going to jump into an abandoned property. Or the other day when I called and said there was some crazy glassy-eyed person screaming into a house on the street. There are resources that allow that. And I want to remind everyone of that. I heard Stephanie Harker say, don't call Allied if someone has a gun. Again, completely accurate. And I just want to point out that when you use these resources as they're meant to be, I think they're very effective. I have called the security ambassadors multiple times or regularly to say, I think something might happen, and they do respond. So I do just want to point that out, that the idea that more policing might prevent gun violence isn't necessarily accurate. But if we as a community are really diligent and I say, I think someone might do something, I think that when you use the resources as they're designed, they can be very effective. And then I guess I'll see you all tomorrow. Good night.
Thanks, Commissioner Eng. Vice Chair Blau.
Thank you. I'll make this really short. The recent shootings and violence and fights and the harassment of the gay family we've been talking about in our community by these external hateful inciters of violence and anger are painful reminders that just in general the work of keeping each other safe here is never finished. Like Commissioner Eng said, it really felt like with David and Anthony especially, I felt like it was an attack on me personally and on the community at large. However, in the midst of that, I really witnessed and experienced something that reminded me who we are as a community. When David and Anthony were targeted, I've really seen this community show up and made them feel saw them surrounded with support, and hopefully it made clear to them that they're not alone. That's how I feel as an external person watching it happening. It just reminded me, why I love West Hollywood and how strong this community is and can be. I guess I'll just leave it there, but look out for your neighbors. Report what concerns you, like Commissioner Eng said. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Blau. Yeah, I just want to echo that. I definitely feel like it was an attack on everyone, on all of us, as I do most of these incidents. The shootings, also, I reached out to Danny right away when I heard about the shooting on Norton. I live around the corner from there, and there are many small children in this city, but I happen to have young neighbors with an infant child, so my head immediately went to my neighbor. A bit panicked, and it wasn't him. It's still unfortunate there was a victim. But it is generally, I feel safe in the city. I do agree with Commissioner Pilarski, and I have to remind myself of that because it is such a special city that, but it's never going to be perfect. With that said, I went to a great event Saturday night, which was an outdoor movie in West Hollywood Park. Could not have felt safer. It was an amazing event. I hope there are many more of them. I think everyone had a good time. I really want to thank the city for helping to facilitate that, because it was really one of those like special things that we can do. And then yesterday, I participated in Sexual Awareness Prevention Month with Commissioner Pilarski, where we handed out kits, safe sex kits, and also drug testing strips. And I thought that the reaction was very positive from people. I don't think anyone refused them, which was good. So that was a good thing, and definitely would want to do a lot more of that. But thanks everyone for your service, and unless there are any other comments, we will see each other next on May 11th, and this is adjourned. Thank you.